And there's gotta be a reason that you're speaking to me. And there's gotta be a reason that you're looking at me. I wish it wasn't in my nature, but I got needs. I wish I liked another flavor, but when you're cool, you know I can't resist. I knew it was a proper mission, but you stir my blood. I knew there's gotta be a mission, but I got needs. I knew you was a fucking mission, and grab my hand and pull me. I knew you was a fucking mission, and you never say please. I knew you was a fucking mission, but nothing else is free. I knew you was a mission. I knew that you were me. I knew you was a fucking mission, and you changed my destiny. I knew you was a fucking mission, and I knew it gonna hurt me. Yeah, I love it. I'm not a major D, but tell me what you need. I'm so eager to please, and I know you like to tease. I get down on my knees. She said, don't look at me. And if you seen what I've seen, you will believe. I know it's all my fault. I got no one else to blame, and I climb a mountain to find it's just a trash heap. And every time I'm with you, I feel worth 99p. I don't believe in love, but I like it when it hurts. I knew you was a proper mission, man. I knew you was a fucking proper mission. I knew you was a fucking mission, but nothing else is free. I knew you was a mission. I
Oh, baby, it's another day, another stream. The the I don't have a good funny follow-up or anything like that. I don't know. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of a biggin today. Okay, I got like a bunch of weird little topics rather than like one big one. Okay, and what we'll do, right, at some point, like middle of the stream, I'm gonna change the title. I made like 2 thumbnails. Okay, that's more than I make on a regular basis. So that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a lot. But part of that is so that way I could just talk about kind of like the little bit of in between stuff between everything. We're also today's gonna be the flock stream a little later on. When it gets later into the night, we'll cover some of the flock stuff from Ben Jordan. But you know, we'll do all that jazz. I had a I had a I had a I had kids D&D today. Okay, I had kids D&D, and dude. Okay, so 2 things. One of the kids made a theme song. Okay, because he goes to it every week. He's a big fan of it. Um, and this is one of those things that you don't realize, right? Even though I didn't like, and I don't know I don't. Kids have this power, dude, but adults do not have this power, right? Where kids notice stuff that adults don't notice, right? So it's not like I get up every day and I'm excited to do kids D&D. I've talked about it before how stressful it is. It's usually the most stressful day of the week. It's actually been really great because I haven't had too many children at the table. When you have 6 children at the table, it's very difficult to just manage. And I've had about 4 lately. A lot of people are on vacation, you know. And in his theme song, he has a line about how like he knows it'll be a good time because I'm not in a bad mood. And I'm like, how do you know that? How do you know when I'm in a bad mood? Because I don't vocalize it or do anything differently, right? I don't do. So it's like, how did you know when that happens? That's crazy, dude. What do you mean? Oh, honey. uh I've talked about the things that get me in a bad mood, including no sleep. I did not get a lot of sleep last night. Okay. But I know that I'm going to have a bad time if like there's a lot of kids there, or if a parent is rude to me when they drop their child off, which has happened a couple times now in ways that has been absolutely outrageous. Because when the parents are rude to me, I obviously don't want to take it out on the kid, so I just kind of quietly get annoyed about it and then complain about it later, and then I need to remember that I'm in charge, so I can actually just be rude back, right? There's no need for me to have like emotional labor. I'm in charge, so like I can do that. Um, but like the customer service in me makes me not want to do those things. And I've talked about that at a prior stream where I talked about like a parent who was like very like snide and well off, and actually a former vice journalist who was like a fucking piece of shit for no reason, and their kid was like too young to be playing D&D, but they were like a real smug fucking well-paid piece of shit asshole. So that was like one of those moments where I was like, that annoyed me, but I didn't like let it out. But I also have a really bad resting bitch face. Yeah, kids are usually good at spotting that if it's something they have to learn to figure out at home. That's true. That's true. But it's another thing to like, because obviously when I learned to recognize those things as a kid, I also learned to not vocalize them because other people would say something. But he vocalized it anyway. Which I guess is good because it must mean that he doesn't like he feels safe. So that's good. But I did think it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I stress out about Kids D&D every week. It is one of the hardest. It is genuinely one of the hardest days of the week for me. Hands down. It is very difficult to do. And it's very stressful to go in and do that. I know that it's like, oh, I'm playing D&D. You've never had, it's like if you know in Courage the Cowardly Dog, when Miriam gets turned into like a child and Courage is like, I want macaroni. And then Courage is like, and he makes a macaroni. She's like, less macaroni. And he goes back, more cheese. And then Courage runs back. He makes it with more cheese. Less cheese. That's what it is like. Okay, that is what it is like for 3 straight hours. It is so stressful. But yeah. It has been easier to manage since I've been on Vyvanse, but I also think that kind of stimulant just gives me a little bit of a high. So it works, but I definitely get like a weird like hour or two where I feel really good. You were kind of sheltered. That was my life with my mom. Well, I wouldn't say sheltered. There was an expectation for you not to vocalize abuse in my household. And then I went to a Catholic school where abuse was justified through dogma. So vocalizing these things would be considered like a social faux pas. You know what I mean? So you just wouldn't say anything like that. Which, you know, maybe that's a little bit of a bummer, man. But like, yeah, that's kind of why. You know, much better that a kid vocalizes it than not, right? Much better he says something, you know. But that's my, you know, thought on that, I suppose, right? Anyway, I figured we would talk about a bunch of things. I just kind of want to clip farm for TikToks. I was gonna make this a whole section. I think it's adorable. He made you a little theme song. They like you. Okay, so he is probably one of my favorites, hands down, hands down. I guess I shouldn't pick favorites the same way a teacher shouldn't pick favorites. But if any of you are a teacher, or any of you have worked in social work, or any of you have worked in any like vocation that takes away a lot of emotional energy, you absolutely have favorites. He is one of mine. So I'm really happy when he's at the table because he actually plays the game and he's not a rules lawyer and he's just good at it. So yeah, teachers have favorites. Teachers have favorites. Oh god. But yeah, lifelong babysitter, yeah. His kids are all iPad kids that never listen. You kind of, one of the best things that I've ever had as an experience is being a teacher, because you learn how to have, all right, I'm going to explain this racially, but it's the only way I know how. There's like a white person's authoritative voice that you learn to have as a teacher. And then when you have that, you can kind of get them to listen, but then you kind of have to be like somebody that has like a position of power, right? Because they innately understand, like a student innately understands that a teacher is in charge, right? But you have to build that from principles first when you're kind of like a babysitter or like whatever the fuck I am as like a paid for dungeon master, right? See, I would say that rules lawyers are bad, but it's kind of hard to be a dick when the rules lawyer is 9. You know? Of course. Of course. I was selfish when I was 9. Everybody was selfish when they were 9. But yeah, like you learn the skills on how to manage like a group like that. It is definitely a learned skill that needs practice too. If you don't practice it, you lose it. It is crazy because I've had to like relearn it like 3 times as a skill. I was originally going to include this as a topic, but I figured like it just really wasn't enough, and I really didn't want to listen to an entire debate between Alex Jones and the Quartering. But yes, the Quartering and Alex Jones had a debate recently. And I am going to tell you the positions before I show you any clips. If you watch the whole thing, it is a meandering fest of 2 grown men. But Alex Jones takes a lot of... So Alex Jones is kind of like... He's kind of weird with his principles. He's weirdly principled in his conspiracy theories, right? You could try and twist Alex Jones' arm into believing that the world is flat, and he's never going to budge on that, right? And one of those things that he would never budge on is the Jews killing Charlie Kirk. Yeah. So there's like a myriad of clips between the Quartering and Alex Jones, and Alex Jones takes umbrage with the position of the Quartering having the Charlie Kirk was killed by Benjamin Netanyahu's finest. We do need an episode of Rule Lawyers though, for sure. That needs to happen. But we'll just look at the clips because I tried to watch it. I tried to watch the whole debate before I went live. And let me tell you, wow, was that not exciting at all and not worth my time. Okay? I have no idea what the context for this clip is specifically, but I might as well just click and see what's up.
You can't come to the cool kid table in 5th grade.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about how, like... he's talking about how, like, MAGA is dividing upon these, like, really specific lines, and how Alex Jones is kind of being left out of the house for not being a Israel shill.
We don't want you at our Howard Lutnick, Jeffrey Epstein table. And I'm just like...
Alex Jones takes a lot of... He's very mad about the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein thing.
When did you guys become 10-year-olds? I mean, seriously. I said, this is probably a bug. It needs to be fixed. This absolutely sucks.
Oh. Why is your stream set to auto 8K for me? It definitely shouldn't be. Oh, one of the other things is that prior to this stream, there was like some bug on Twitter, and so like Alex Jones was making an argument about something. It doesn't really matter, but he wasn't, or like one of the sides in this argument wasn't getting backed up by a bunch of foreign bots agreeing with their position. And so like Alex Jones was making like a point about like how a lot of the stuff is being astroturfed by foreign agents, which he's probably right about, but you know, broken clock.
And I'm drawing attention.
Also, it looks really weird now that he's kind of getting skinny, though. Ozempic and Alex Jones is kind of strange. You know how, like, some guys were destined to be fat? You know, it's like he lost his fat guy aura.
To it, you're like, no, everyone just stopped listening to you because you're anti-Iran war and you question Charlie Kirk. Look at the Quartering. Let's scroll up. Maybe the Pakistani bots are asleep. Alex, as a daily viewer, I have personally tuned out since you've been on this "the Jews killed Charlie Kirk" nonsense. I'll tune back in when you come back to your senses. What did my post have to do with Jews? I didn't say.
I love this idea. Okay, like let's put aside all of the really specific and idiosyncratic related things with the politics of this. Diesel, where do I belong? Why are you guys asking where do I belong? Where does Hal belong? No context? Where do you belong? No context? You belong wherever you want, Queen. Same for you, Slaw. You get to be wherever you want, Queen. Same energy as I love Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras? That might be one of Kanye's best quotes. Right up there with George Bush doesn't care about black people. God.
The Jews killed Charlie Kirk. That's what most of the internet thinks, and I've looked at all the angles. So I always love the straw men, too. Hey, quartering, I'll give you $10,000. You can give me a clip of me saying, the Jews killed Charlie Kirk. 10,000, buddy. Should be real easy. I bet you more, but that's about what I got in my bank account.
That is okay. Well, that's actually even funnier because, as we all know, Alex Jones is on the receiving end of quite a large bill from the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. So,
so, challenges there, pal.
All right, ladies and thadies. We're having like a sapphic ranch in my chat right now. I don't know how to feel about that. Yeah, he's like a parody. Well, you know, the thing is that everything that you think would be like, oh, I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards has all come to pass, okay? You know, like I saw a clip of RFK, his like phone went off and he has like the quack sound for his his phone. So he was talking about how vaccines cause autism and then it went whack. He's trying to oppress us, Odie. Streamer mad. Thank you for accepting me. Oh my god. Okay, guys.
First of all, I'd love to go to that. I see that's down in Dallas.
Oh, so like in this prior clip, like Alex Jones is basically talking about some certain event, and then the quartering is being, you know, himself.
So maybe we can meet up there, and you could take me out for a fancy steak dinner, and we can wrestle or something like.
You know, I love that the quartering is always just kind of homoerotic with his behaviors. You know, he's got a bull in his life, and then here he is putting the sweet talk onto Alex Jones.
That, but I mean, I think that
as soon as RFK was spoken of, the stream cut off for a sec.
America needs Christ right now.
But yes, everybody was saying that Jeremy was gay maxing by doing that. But that I also agree. I should clarify that the full debate of this is so much more boring than any of the clips that I am showing you now. Okay, like it really is like just debating about the usual, the JQ.
What comes out of that?
Well, first of all, minor update. It's coffeebrandcoffee.com. Sorry.
And then everybody was dogging on him because he needed to get his fucking ad out for the coffee brand coffee.
I just want to correct the URL if people want to check it out. Sorry, I'm a shameless shill if nothing else. I too am supporting.
Okay, so as I was watching this, I would just like to really put this into perspective for you guys. Jeremy is not a man who has the conviction for an argument, which is why he doesn't really do it. even in the context of Alex Jones, where the entire debate was him being kind of cordial as Alex Jones could be, right? Because they're friends, air quotes. Jeremy is very like stiff in it and he kind of makes himself small. He's kind of being like frame mogged by Alex Jones, I would argue. There's like a level of insecurity associated with like Jeremy's beliefs, because I don't think he knows how to defend them. Like, I actually think he doesn't know anything, you know? So, but if you do go to watch the full thing, which I don't recommend, Jeremy does this thing. You know how I'm like sitting back and I have my shoulders like rested back here and I'm like really relaxed, right? He's like, and making himself really small. It's just a very strange, like, he's sitting in a way where he's like very unsure of himself and very unconfident, right? But that's the entire thing. Yeah, he does have the charisma of a walnut. That is true. But that was that. I was seriously trying to look through the whole fucking thing to be like, is there anything interesting in here? But I'm just like, I don't really want to talk about the Jewish question today.
I got to make sure my BF stays away from the leaks. Crying face emoji.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, well, so let's thank you for that segue. Let's get on to the leaks. Okay, let's get on to the leak. I can't show you any of the leaks here on stream because I'll be killed by a drone sent from Rockstar Take-Two. Okay.
Why can't...
But we'll be talking about this guy soon enough.
Stop lying. Please stop lying. What is wrong with you? Like, every single thing in this fucking video, your newest video is a lie. All I said, I just want you to acknowledge what you did and apologize. I spent 4 days of my life trying to get you to do that. And at every fucking turn, you said, no, fuck you. You wouldn't even acknowledge what I want you to apologize for. Even in this fucking video, you still wouldn't.
I don't remember the original context for this, but just completely out of context, taken in its solo experience as a video. Dark Viper's like vocal range is too high for him to be animated in this way. Like he should be animated. I think that's fine. However, you kind of gotta you can't yell to the point where your voice is cracking. You gotta kind of bring it into like the correct range. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that he's not yelling correctly. He could be yelling better.
Not acknowledge what I wanted to apologize for.
I don't even want to know the context for this. Okay, I don't even want to. I know that I know the context. I remember that I did cover this when it happened. However, I do not remember. Okay, I also think it's really funny because I was like very like non-committal in my coverage of Dark Viper the original time it happened, and the thing that happened when that happened is that Dark Viper mentioned me by name as somebody on his shit list. However, the entirety of my like point when I made like goofs about him were like these like very soft-handed, like non-committal, like barely, like he wasn't even the fucking thumbnail. Okay, like he wasn't the thumbnail of the stream that he was like complaining about, right? So it was just like when he tweeted, I was just like, who's this? Who's this guy? Who's this guy that's mad? Oh, that's that Dark Viper guy? Oh, why is he mad? Well, it's because you know those other guys. I don't even know who he is. He's a voice actor? In what? He's just streaming GTA. What are you talking about? He just knows when someone talks about him, kind of like how Santa knows when you're bad or good. Okay, well, the answer, here's how Santa knows whether or not you've been bad or good, aside from his connection to Palantir. The other way that Santa knows is that he has a Google feed that alerts him anytime somebody uses his name. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, it was one of those moments where I was like, dude, what the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, what? Calm down. God, it ain't that deep. Shit. The Tea Party and its consequences, right, man? You know how many years we are removed from that? I thought he was a voice actor. I don't know why he spent so much time yelling on the internet about things. But yeah. All right. So, before I get to Dark Viper's connection to all this, we might as well talk about the actual leakers. Of course, I'm not going to show any of the leak footage because then I'll get giga exploded by them and Rockstar. And then on top of that, they're also kind of like advertising crypto while doing it. So like I'm not super enthusiastic about showing that stuff, but you know, it is what it is. But there is a reason that they've been leaking all of this stuff on GTA 6. I don't know if any of you have been paying attention to any of it. Diesel, the dirty Mountain Dew is refrigerated. So, you know what's even stranger is that not just one, but two of you have apparently tried it. Both Odd and Chatter Faint have tried the dirty Mountain Dew. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with this bev, hold on, I'll open it up so that way we can all take a gander. I am not. So this kind of reminds me of like, have you guys ever like looked at a bottle of detergent and like the bottle is like mixed or it has like a swirly color? Like this looks like a coconut, fresh vanilla flavored like detergent can. It just has the color range of a detergent. Okay. I also tried the Dirty Dew. It's all right. That's just milk cola. Well, like cream soda isn't milk cola, right? It's only dirty if there's like actually milk in it, right? So this is just like, but this has milk in it. It's less curdle feeling with cold. Yeah, it looks like the Tide Pod liquid version. That's just Tide. It's Tide is a bev. It's non-dairy. Well, Yoo-Hoo's non-dairy, you know. I think it's creamer, isn't it? Yeah. No, milk cola is something different. 1 part soda, 1 part milk. Yeah. Yeah, that's because cream soda is just cream flavoring, yeah. But this is like a different thing. Right? Huh. I don't know. It's got a detergent like. It has a detergent like aura to it, okay? It is ephemeral, it is untouchable, but the Mountain Dilk looks like I would wash clothes with it, okay? Is it Mountain Dilk or a Dirty Dew? No, I like Mountain Dilk. I like Mountain Dilk. It sounds worse. Give me that Dilk. Some people go a really long time without any Dilk. The packaging does most of the work, to be honest. It really does. I mean, I've looked at some detergents and gone, that looks edible. But I also know that I wouldn't eat detergent, you know? So, there's that. But yeah, it's the saturation, the color levels on this. They just exist on a plane that seems like it would be, I don't know, not great. Like it's for clothes, not for people. You American drinks, just some weird shit, dude. All right. Don't. You stay in your lane, English or European. All right. So, I looked at the I'm gonna, maybe this is like really fucked and evil, or maybe this is like a dark horse opinion. I've seen the GTA leaks of their active build. Somehow they got the build. So it's like near whatever it. The game is coming out soon, right? So this is like stuff that is like near completion. But it was like Jason, the main guy, walking into a fucking strip club. And this is gonna sound crazy, but it just looks like GTA. It looks a little bit more high fidelity, okay? And there's definitely more BBLs in the strippers that are in the strip club. But like, it literally just looks like GTA. I'm Brazilian though. Brazil numero one. But yeah, all of the things that I have seen from the leaks, while they looked technically impressive, I can tell you that it looked like I am not interested in something that is that. I want games that look worse that are more fun to play. You know? It's not like it was bad, but there's like a certain point when you reach like video games that are literally fucking changing a tire out on the side of the highway that I'm like, that's too much, dude. I don't need the changing a tire at the side of the highway. And it's like, yeah, wow, this strip club looks so real and lived in. Bro, have you been to a strip club? It's awful. No, it's a 2025 build. Well, it looked really near complete. I gotta be honest, right? Like when they twerk, the ass fat moves behind the bone. You know what I mean? Like that's the level of complexity we're dealing with here. But it's not like, you know, if I want to see somebody twerk, I'll just type it in on the internet. You know, just none of the things that are like, ooh, isn't this so amazing how technically impressive it is? Bro, I don't fucking care. It just looks like GTA. I don't fucking care. But I don't know. Maybe I just don't get the hype. Apparently, guys who like ball and gun game really are excited about this. But I gotta tell you, as a guy who has played plenty of ball and gun game, I could not care less. Granted, I don't play many ball and gun game now because I play things for like elderly people, but like, or Balatro. But still. I got it. The packaging looks like a wood floor. That's a good way to put it. No, it looks like the wood floor cleaner, you know, like Lemon Pledge. Yeah, ball and shaft. No. Ball and shaft is like if you play NBA 2K and Forza. Right? Ball and gun. A ball is NBA and Call of Duty, and those are the only games you buy. But yeah, cock and ball torture. Those are also still cock and ball torture because you buy NBA every year and it sucks, and you buy it anyway because you don't know how to buy video games for some reason. And then you buy Call of Duty and it's like a piece of shit and made with AI and looks like sloppity slop the whole way down. I've grown weary of gun game. My reflexes are the same. That too. Nobody fucking plays a game to enjoy the game. Everybody's trying to sweat their way into being the best guy that's ever existed. Which I get it. Sure, I'm trying my best too. But like, bro, you're doing like fucking 60 actions per second. Yeah, it's a Pine Sol ass can. Anyway, this is why the leakers have been leaking the GTA stuff, and I didn't know about some of this. And I also do think that some of this is like a thing can be two things kind of thing, where it's like this might be part of the reason they did it, but then the other reason is that they're probably making hella bread on crypto from this, so who knows. Anyway, they went on to say, no consumer shall pay for a game through digital storefronts before release and independent review. I will say this, you should not do that. You should not buy a game on pre-order. Stop buying pre-orders. Don't do it. Wait a second. Hey, Diesel, thanks for that copy of GTA 6. I was doubting the legitimacy, but it turns out you have the full latest copy. Rockstar, aka Take-Two, I do not have a copy of GTA 6. Let it be known, please do not do anything to me. They're going to send the Pinkertons to my house. Physical pre-orders for tangible media remain permitted. What do you mean by that? That's not any better. That's like the... Yeah. Well, I mean, that's still just as bad, but whatever. You shouldn't pre-order anything, period. Stop pre-ordering. Save your money. Pre-orders were not created for gamers. That is true. It is just a way to ensure sales and get early sales projections. They've also been decreasing the amount of stuff you get for pre-ordering anyway, so there's no reason to do it. They were created because physical disc had manufacturing limits. Yes, but I also feel like the other thing. In digital distribution, there is no inventory. There is no stock shortage. A digital copy cannot sell out. By the way, have you guys ever experienced that where you go to buy something digitally and it's a digital item and then they say they don't have any more copies of it, even though it's a digital thing? What the fuck is with that? I actually, like, that is one of the most insane things that I have ever experienced, like buying a digital item. Fuck you. Like, what in God's name are you on about? Hey, Diesel, thanks for sending me that kilo of cocaine. Real quality stuff, man. Look, if I was dealing that much cocaine, do you think I would be streaming? Publishers kept the pre-order system and stripped away its only consumer benefit. Now gamers pay early and receive nothing in return except a countdown timer and a cosmetic skin. That's true, man. I will say that is true. There's really nothing you get out of pre-ordering. By the way, the GTA 6 pre-order, like including things that are basically literally just features in the game, is like diabolically insane. Like everything I have learned about like GTA 6 is coming out is just like, oh, the game is going to be needlessly complicated. Oh, the game is going to have ball physics. Oh, the game is going to hide features behind a fucking $20 paywall, okay? Hey, D, thanks for the crate of dirty Mountain Dew. I'm doing my laundry as we speak. Well, at least you're using it for its correct intended purpose. Yeah, I miss midnight releases, too. I do like the convenience of buying digital on Steam, though. I don't mind that. Yeah, it's artificial scarcity. Yeah. There is no stock shortage. A digital copy cannot sell out, and blah, 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 and cosmetic timer. If publishers want revenue before launch, they can press dicks. Press dicks. Yeah, they can press your dick for a fee. That's what it feels like. When if GTA 6 comes out and that game is $80, it might as well be pressing my dick. All right? God damn. And then to get all of the features of GTA 6, I need to pay $100. Bro, I am not dropping $100 on GTA 6. I am going to wait until it is on sale, or I will buy it secondhand on the gray market. If publishers want revenue before launch, they can press a disc, print boxes, put them on shelves, earn that money through physical production. There is something to be said about this push to get back to physical. I think as we... if AI is anything, it is the erosion of the possibility that you could own anything. That is very frustrating to people. Sam Altman thinking that, oh, people can pay for intelligence by paying on the meter is like the most evil thing ever. Okay? I want to be intelligent for free. I don't want to have to pay you a fee to access intellect like that. That's crazy. What I find really funny, some people have been waiting 2 decades for GTA 6, and they're going to blow their load and 100% the game within 20 minutes of release like a fucking cigarette. Yeah. You bet your ass I'm sailing the seas in Brazil. It's over $400. Damn, that's crazy. Crazy. You know, it's like that, but I heard about the stuff that's been happening with Star Citizen recently. I might touch on that later in this stream since we're talking about video games today. But Star Citizen had like an awful showing, like a really bad showing. Did you know that I bought in to Star Citizen when I was like 15 or 16? I was in high school when I bought in to Star Citizen. I am going to be 30 and Star Citizen is not out. What? I had a Star Citizen jacket. Okay. I own one of the dumb shit ships. And the game is still not out. Doesn't Beckett have like a crazy ship in Star Citizen? Yes, he does. He has like a $300 ship in Star Citizen. Okay. I would just like to, I would like to not to go band for band, but when I was 16, I bought a $150 ship for Star Citizen. I have one of the like luxury spaceship cruisers. Okay. Insane. Tell me, Diesel, where has Beckett touched you on the overpriced digital ship? I wouldn't know because you try to get on the ship and you fall through its geometry. Okay? He can't touch me on the digital ship because I'm an ephemeral object who's imperceivable through doors. Another quote seen from the GTA 6 leaked map says, "Fighting for gamers' rights." All right. I feel like every time I hear about like gamers' rights or the gamer, it always sounds like a little dorky. I guess dorky is the woke way to put that, but I'm sure we could come up with non-woke ways to describe that, right? Because like every time it's like, I don't know, it's like gamers are a very petulant audience. They really are, because I think a lot of people don't want to engage with the medium in like an artistic format, especially with like a lot of video games. There's just a lot of video games where it's very clear that people don't want to engage with like the themes of the message or like the messages and the themes. But there's always a little bit of that cognitive dissonance with it, right? So like what is it? There's no true anti-war movie because the second you put war in cinema, there's always going to be like a little bit of like, it's always going to look kind of cool, right? I'm kind of butchering that quote, but it's kind of the same thing for games, you know? Because I saw, I'm quoting a tweet now, but like there was a tweet on twitter.com, aka X Everything app, that was talking about how gamers didn't want to really engage with the thing that Dishonored was trying to tell, right? Where if you use the powers that Dishonored offered you, you would eventually lead yourself down a path to destruction. While you would personally be more powerful, it would equal out to you being like a worse person, right? So Dishonored is clearly making a statement about power, its structures, how power can corrupt, and its and what that all means together, right? Think about the haves and have-nots that exist in that universe, right? And it's a really good story. It's no. That's not what it's called. It's not propaganda, right? In the context of when we're talking about making an anti-war movie, right? But the quote goes something like, "You can never truly portray like a movie as anti-war because the like filmmaker is encouraged to make something that is interesting and engaging, and inherently that is going to go and make war look interesting and engaging. So even though you're trying to be anti-war just by the process of making a film and putting it to screen, it is not going to be anti-war, right? It's the same way that people look at like Heart of Darkness and misinterpret it, right? Or they look at any of those Vietnam War movies like Full Metal Jacket. Think about how many guys go through basic, okay, and then quote Full Metal Jacket. Do you know how many guys quote Full Metal Jacket, not realizing that the point of Full Metal Jacket is that you don't quote the things from Full Metal Jacket? But to stay on the topic of like video games, Dishonored had a lot of that, and a lot of people didn't want to engage with that. And they just wanted to experience the power fantasy associated, which is fine. I think it's a totally thorough way to enjoy Dishonored. It wasn't an unintended way to engage with the game. The game tells its message regardless of whether or not you get the good or bad ending. There is no correct ending in Dishonored, even though there is a canon one, right? But there's definitely a lot of games where like it could be presenting a story, it's incongruent with the mechanics in the process of playing the game, which is why like a lot of people bounce off Spec Ops: The Line or The Last of Us Part 2 or any of these other things. And I think The Last of Us Part 2 is like just okay, right? Yeah, it's hard to make an anti-war game when the gameplay will be shooting stuff. But all of this to say is like, I don't know if it's a media literacy thing, but I think there's a larger portion of people who don't pay attention to the mechanical literary devices in a video game, right? Because you tell a story in a video game through its mechanics, and if you choose not to think about how those mechanics work, then you are ignoring the themes and the media literacy. It's a very, you gotta think differently about being media literate with video games is what I'm saying, right? Because there's the narrative of a video game, there's the mechanics of the video game, and there's the design of the video game. And theoretically, all three kind of coalesce into a single theme. However, they don't always do that, right? There's a lot of things that sometimes they kind of exist as silos for you to only engage with the kind of experience that you want, right? Which is kind of like games more as a consumer product toy versus games as an art medium, right? But I would think that the best games are able to leverage all three aspects of that to kind of like get an artistic message across. You need to be designing mechanics within the context of the message that you want to send in order to make a video game that is congruent with all three, right? So that's why I think Dishonored does it very well. That's why Disco Elysium is so well loved. Granted, I think a lot of people who enjoy Disco Elysium are really annoying pedants who don't play any other video game, so there's that. But I do think that it mechanically does all three of those things very well. But all that to say, and to try and circle back around to the main point, is that the way people engage with games is almost like anti-intellectual, and it's not like you're being like a woke Andy by engaging with games intellectually, because things like Doom or things like Halo or these shooters, right, that seem to be kind of lowbrow, I guess you would say it, have things to say. They just don't use their words to say them. They either use their mechanics or their other aspects to do that, which is what makes games so interesting, right? I keep seeing a YouTube short about an FPS game made by an ex-COD dev. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's. I don't think that's gonna stick the landing at all. I don't think so. I think it's gonna have a very difficult time doing that. But I have seen those shorts too. But this is my overarching thesis: is that like we've almost been like, we have like the chuds who are like, I don't want to engage with games like that. Games are escapism. And then we have the woke Andys who are like, I only play games that make me think and be miserable. And it's like, well, you're kind of not engaging with games for their mechanics, and those mechanics explain a thing, right? If you've ever played the game Frostpunk is a game about post-apocalypse survival portrayed through like a 4X city builder, okay? And everything about the first game is about you making, all the mechanics are based around you making tough choices in order to fulfill the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. Are you going to give people a comfortable life, or are you going to ensure the survival of humanity, right? And all of the mechanics are based around that. You're managing the heat of the city. You're doing all of that. And then the second game still keeps this up with the mechanics, right? But they expand it out. Okay, yeah, you've been able to help the city survive, but what kind of world comes out of the snow-covered ash, basically, right? And all of the mechanics are based around, okay, how you've made the tough decisions to survive. Now, how do you see society that now that you've done that, right? And it's all mechanically intertwined with the act of playing the game. So it tells a story narratively, but it also tells a story with the mechanics, which is what I'm saying. So you don't need to engage with game as like gun game to not pay attention to video games, right? Even Call of Duty has had some more avant-garde themes, and then nobody paid attention to them, so now they just phone everything in. How do I properly engage with the themes of the Meat and Fuck series? Well, I gotta tell you this. I don't think the Meat and Fuck series goes a whole lot deeper than meeting and fucking. But it should ask you this. Do you want to meet and fuck them? Or are you seeking something else? And there's that chud that just cringes at a game, and it's some moral failing and eroding the foundations of the country, and Rome and will burn if someone enjoys it. Yeah, Wolverine's going through it. Oh my god, yeah, I know. If I was more of an X-Men guy, I would comment on that exact video. But I don't know anything about X-Men, so I'm not even going to attempt that, even though I know he's a LARPer. But yeah, I also think that's why Undertale has been so lauded. I know Undertale has like a cringe ooh-woo fan base, but Undertale does that as well. Undertale's very good at it. It mixes its mechanics, narrative, and visual themes to a T in a way that is very, very good. But yeah. And now, oh, my internet was crashing out for a second. Hopefully that doesn't keep happening. But yeah, there's a lot of video games like that. I highly recommend going out there and looking for things that aren't ball and gun. But it's just like GTA, right? People kind of look at GTA. I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep doing this. People look at GTA like a power fantasy life simulator, but GTA is like this very scathing, very detailed critique of like American life at its current time. It's always been that. It's been that forever. And while Red Dead is more like a historical kind of recreation, GTA has like a very like biting sarcasm to it, right? And a lot of the things that have happened in GTA's past have like come to pass in reality. So that's also really interesting, right? It kind of has the Simpsons aspect to it there, which is sick. Oh, Mercy with the gifted, very pog, very good, very based. Undertale is the last safe haven for endangered Quirk Chungus Zillennials. Oh my god. Welcome. I don't know why the dono sound isn't playing. I don't know what the fuck is happening. It might be having an issue today. But yeah, there's a lot of games like that. I don't know. I don't see a lot of that happening in like AAA though, I guess. I don't know. We will never get a Bully 2 and it saddens me. Well, I feel like the aspect of it is like you just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it would need to exist in like a time period rather than the current day too. Funnily enough, I like Cyberpunk 2077's themes of, yeah, the world's fucked. We took too long to save it in their endings. Might as well embrace the gun gameplay while I'm alive. Well, okay. So if anybody has ever read any of the source books for Cyberpunk, you will understand that even those themes about like we took too long to save it, that's not even like the reality of how bad it really is. Anything that exists as like a political foible in our time is like a 10 times worse political foible in the Cyberpunk universe, right? So I'll give you, so like we're developing AI now and like Neuralink, and there's this push from guys like Peter Thiel to basically extend human life. There's been like the enhanced games, or which is like the Olympics on steroids is what the pitch was, right? Or those cryogenic freezing things that Peter Thiel is also invested in, or libertarian post-scarcity super cities that Peter Thiel has also invested in, right? A lot of these guys, and specifically Peter Thiel, seem really obsessed with the idea of living forever or building a city that is completely separate from the world order, and just kind of exists as like a city state, as they did back in the 1600s. And Night City is one of those cities. Night City is literally one of those cities. It was created by a guy. I forget his first name, but his last name was Knight. He started the fund to build Night City. He is also the original founder and owner of Night Corp, which features in the Peralez's mission, where, the Peralez's are being like brainwashed by some secret shadowy organization. It is believed to be Night Corp that is doing that. But with that, in that whole story, as you start to build up like Night City as a place, Night City's only reason for being able to exist is because the United States was unable to keep itself together through the problems that it had caused itself in the 90s and early 2000s in Cyberpunk's timeline, right? And from that, all of these corporate players are able to move in. Basically, they cut deals with the deep state, which enhances their wealth to extreme magnitudes. Militech, Arasaka, Night Corp, tons of these businesses basically get in bed with the deep state and like the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, all of this stuff. And when the corporate wars kick off, these are the people who are giving the weapons, the supplies, and the soldiers. And it's all being paid for by the crumbling governments of these taxpayers. And as a result of that, all of the money gets funneled into these corporations. Those corporations take that money and then funnel it into large projects like Mikoshi, which is the Soul Killer project, or they funnel it into projects like Night City, which is a joint venture between a bunch of corporations, right? Which, I don't know if you guys have looked around lately, but companies like Palantir, Flock, Axon, Anduril, Boeing, name your pick. These guys benefit off of times that are rough. They just do. If there's a time of war, they benefit from it. If there's a time of discontent, they benefit from it. And they're able to consolidate power and then throw it at crazy projects, like a libertarian neo-Roman city. But yes, so Inscription's another one that's really good at mixing its whole like narrative and mechanical themes together. It's a really good one if you haven't played Inscription. Fucking phenomenal. Yeah, so like the United States president ends up also being the CEO of Militech. And basically the Militech is the NUSA, the same way that Arasaka is the Japanese government, right? And throughout all the course of this, Saburo Arasaka is an old man. He served in World War II. And he's spending basically his entire life's project and all of his time and effort to conquering death, right? He does not want to die. He believes himself to be the rightful owner of Arasaka. He has a chip on his shoulder from World War II, from the Americans. And with that, he will stop at nothing to get what he wants. And so what he does over a long period of time, first of all, he has multiple kids to ensure that his dynasty will survive if he fails. But doubly, those kids are also serving another purpose of the eldest male is going to become his body if he is successful, which is why it was an issue when Morgan Blackhand and Johnny Silverhand blow up Arasaka Tower, because it set back the Soul Killer project a little bit, and it killed Saburo Arasaka's eldest son, who was the one that they wanted, right? Because he was the one who showed up for meetings. He was Daddy's dearest. He was the one that would be the most likely and the easiest to replace, right? If they switched his mind out with Saburo's, nobody would be none the wiser, and it would just seem like a normal transition of power. His other kids, his youngest daughter was fucking Adam Smasher and running around and starting separate businesses. She started a company called the Danger Gals, where she was trying to basically go off and kind of do her own thing, which you might have seen that Bill Gates' daughter tried to do recently, to much chagrin. And his son ran off and decided to become a biker, like a biker in a biker gang, because he had a chip on his shoulder about being a wealthy person. So he basically decided to LARP as a poor person, right? So he was not wanted. And in fact, of course, by the start of 2077, we know he didn't want this at all, right? He's mad at his father. He kills Saburo. V gets blamed for the murder. But there's an internal power struggle where the son is trying to supersede the board so that way Saburo can't be reborn using Soul Killer. But it's not surprising that the themes of Cyberpunk are about a 140-year-old man with like fucking ailing diseases wanting to live forever. I don't think that's surprising at all. In fact, I think that's probably one of the most prescient things in the game, is how almost simple and just like dark that all is. Because that is what a lot of the current billionaires want now. But yeah, I think like, yeah, you can enjoy Cyberpunk for that. But when you know the history of the setting leading up to 2077, it's like the culmination of like many years. Literally 77 years. Which Cyberpunk faction would people like Alex Jones and Candace Owens be a part of? Alex Jones would be a patsy. I mean, they're both medias, but there is a character like Alex Jones in Cyberpunk, and then it turns out that he's like a Zoltar type vending machine, you know? But there is some theories that maybe it's like something from beyond the Black Wall too. It's kind of hard to say. Candace Owens is totally just working for a corp. In fact, both of them would probably just be working for a corp. Nobody is free. Everybody's owned by everybody. That's like the reality of it. Every time you think you're doing something for the betterment of mankind or doing something that doesn't have a corporation's finger in its pie in Cyberpunk, you're wrong, right? That's why I never really like jived with people being like, well, if you're supposed to be an edge runner, why are you working for the police? Isn't that kind of against the themes of the game? And it's like, no. Everything an edge runner ever does in the setting is always dictated by a corporation at some place down the chain. Every fixer is getting their jobs from either other fixers, other contacts, and those other contacts could be in contact with companies who benefit from that job happening. Regardless, at least, even if it's 3 degrees of separation, they are always connected to a corporation. And the corporations and the NCPD are one and the same. One of them just claims to protect laws that help Night City. The others claim to protect their own corporate laws that protect their own corporate interest. So it like people that get mad about the fact that you can team up with cops, it's like, well, they're just kind of cutting out the middleman. Yeah, the blue-eyed people. Which personally I have my own theories for that, but now we're just talking about like something I enjoy rather than things I hate. So, you know, there's there's that. I've spent a lot of time in the Cyberpunk universe. Okay? I've spent a lot of time. There is a guy, he's like a Swedish guy, and he does like so basically Cyberpunk is one-to-one allegory. Okay, first of all media is basically doing that. Cyberpunk fiction or dystopian fiction is making really specific critiques about our world. That is the point of it, right? When you read Neuromancer, it is making critiques specifically about our connected world, right? Which, by the way, Neuromancer is becoming a TV show on Apple. But yeah, Cyberpunk is that. The thing is that Cyberpunk looks so cool, people don't realize that. When Kay is standing there and he's being like talked to by the ad, right, in the rain, we all know the purple and blue bisexual light in Kay where he's staring up at the AI and she's like going down and she's like, "You look lonely," right? Everybody misinterprets that, including the fucking White House, okay? What's so scary about that is that, one, it's a targeted ad. But think about it. That's a targeted ad at somebody's most vulnerable aspect, all right? They're taking advantage of the fact that Kay has nobody in his life to advertise a sex bot to him, to be clear. There's a lot of stuff in Blade Runner that just people aren't, like, they don't engage with as, like, you know, like, the very obvious aspects of it, but, you know. Isn't Cyberpunk 2077's first, like, real job getting the chip was instigated by a soft coup from the children of the Arasaka guy? Yes! Yes! Because the reason that the job was going to get them into the big leagues and why the job was paying so much is because the job was being paid for by the Arasaka children. Yes. I don't know if they'll massacre Neuromancer. Severance is great. I do trust that Apple could kind of nail it. I do think that a lot of people have only read Neuromancer and none of the other books. Okay? I will say that I did kind of like think it was super sick to see what's-her-face with her silver glasses eyes and her nail like claw things. Fuck, what's her name? What's that character's name? I can't remember. I can't fucking remember, but every single bad bitch character in cyberpunk fiction is that lady. It's really crazy how important that whole universe is to cyberpunk media. I want my cyberpunk equivalent as the guy who wore the Max Headroom mask and hijacked Chicago TV's airwaves. Yeah, that guy was a vending machine. That was not a... That was like... There's a whole quest for you going... Yeah, oh, Molly Millions. Yeah, Molly Millions. God damn, I can't believe I drew a blank on her name. Fuck. But yes, yes. I feel like Borderlands is like not good at doing its critiques. It's not funny in the correct way. I don't know. Neuromancer is a tricky read. I think Neuromancer is a really easy read. I think it's a really easy read. I very much recommend it. Yeah. It is probably... I mean, there's very few good cyberpunk books. There's a lot of really ass ones. Obviously, the other one is Snow Crash, which is where Meta gets its namesake. And by the way, Mark Zuckerberg clearly never read Snow Crash. Or he did read Snow Crash and thought it was a good idea anyway, which is even worse. Wow, that was a really long tangent. I'm so sorry for anybody who's like, when are you going to get to Dark Viper? I bet the themes will be watered down to capitalism bad instead of what humanity... Okay, well, first of all... First of all, most cyberpunk is capitalism bad, okay? Because it's unchecked capitalism taken to its utmost extreme at its utmost extracting, okay? It is not subtle. It is not subtle. Cyberpunk 2077 is also not subtle, okay? Because you live in a corporate-sponsored mega building, okay? And in your apartment, aside from paying rent, you have a fucking paid-for vending machine where you need to spend Eurobucks in order to get food, all right? The only reason that V doesn't have trouble affording food is because V is an edge runner. Okay, normal people in Night City do actually have a food problem. Lots of them can't feed themselves. It's why a lot of them eat scop. Okay, of which there's a very real possibility that some of the scop that people eat from Biotechnica is made from people. And the only reason that Biotechnica is able to do that is because there's no fucking people that can stop them. There's no government agency that comes in and says, hey, you can't make bioengineered meat out of people. You can't round up a bunch of like fucking nomads. You can't round up a bunch of nomads, steal their farmland, and then hook them up to machines that cause them to gain weight and grow meat so that way you can cut the meat off of them and then sell it back to people. Also, the black wall is like hell or something. This is my conspiracy theory. But my theory is that the black wall, the AI on the other side are basically the equivalent of demons or angels. It is that bad. I think they are divine in their level of power and danger, right? So but I think there's a lot of that there. Hal and some of the other people I've played Cyberpunk very much disagree with that. I don't think I'm wrong at all. I do think we will reach that point. I would not be surprised if that is what is on the other side of the black wall, right? I think while it's one of the greatest questions, the things you learn in Sinosure, in Phantom Liberty, imply that there's a Lovecraftian element to the AI, and the AI speak in their own language that they use to plan and plot. In fact, the black wall might be a complete ruse. They could already be leaking over. And as they do, it's putting everybody else at risk because they're so powerful that they intend to take over when they do. And all of it has just been a plan for the whole time. I mean, Cyberpunk and Judge Dredd are kind of the same universe in a lot of ways, right? Both are very bad. Mega City 1 is just humongous. You know? That's really it. God, this is a really great conversation because I actually like these things. And much prefer them over fucking drama. You can tell what actually makes me excited. I believe it will contact God through AOL in 51 years. Well, that's like the transhumanist aspect of AI too, right? Or this like divine God in the machine thing. That's a pretty prescient topic for cyberpunk fiction to touch on. And 2077 is kind of talking about it before it's like a big topic. Even when it first came out, it was kind of like, in 2020, who the fuck was talking about this kind of stuff? Yeah, Ghost in the Shell was. But here's the thing, is that Ghost in the Shell is one of those things that has, like, dare I say it, a real filter. Because if you read the manga, there's, like, two ways to engage with it, either as, like, a horny action or as a really, really complicated political piece. And a lot of people are like, horny action. Because the guy who wrote it is like also really into horny action. And also the movie, like the movie from the 90s or the 2000s, does not really get into as much of that as it should. It gets into a little bit of that, but not all of it. The new Ghost in the Shell committee is great. I do like Blame. I do like Blame quite a bit. Do I have a copy of Blame? I might have just read that digitally, but Blame is very good. I like the art in it. Yeah, Serial's Experiments Lane is another good one. Yeah, we're just naming the greats now, you know. Serial's Experiments Lane is probably the one that tackles the God and the machine concept probably the best. Mainly because it's kind of like the main thing about that. and Lane as like a franchise is very three-dimensional in that way. I don't know. I know this the whole... I've watched the Dungeon Chill video. Yeah, the guy who made Ghost in the Shell draws a lot of doujins. I hope to be like him one day. I really do. I hope to be like him one day. This guy is like, here's my... I was going to compare him to Kojima, but I guess he predates Kojima. But he's got like, here's my really important bit about the politics that I've put in this margin, and about how you know, people are running around in their robotic bodies and how that works, and basically that they're just a brain in a jar somewhere and they're controlling themselves remotely. And also, she has double D breasts and she walks around in a one piece all the time and she's constantly oiled up. And it's like, whoa! But yeah, fucking Ghost in the Shell is great. Ghost in the Shell is amazing. The people who are like mad that this new Ghost in the Shell is too like anime-y are so fucking ridiculous. Cause that's part of it. It's part of it. That's part of what makes it so sick. Oh, Jesus. I'm getting so fucking off topic. You guys should watch a new Ghost in the Shell. It's my final one. The new Ghost in the Shell, everybody's dressed fly as fuck, by the way. All right, all the outfits in the new Ghost in the Shell is fucking phenomenal. Like, I have been using the Ghost in the Shell, the new anime, as like outfit inspiration. Okay, because these guys, like some of the other like characters in the anime show up for like a little bit, and they got like the hardest fit on. Like, it's so fucking hard, dude. It's fucking hard as fuck. And he's like there for like 10 seconds in the entire episode. And I'm like, bro, fuck. Fucking dude. Oh. God. Anyway, this has been very much off topic. Let me get back to explaining where Dark Viper enters the story. Okay, so Dark Viper, of course, is like outfit inspo. It's true. I'm sorry. All right, you're telling me. Hold on. Let me show. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Fuck. There's no like screenshots of the newest one. There was that meme. Their like police outfits look fucking weird though, I will not lie. Like from some of the key art. Hold on, now I gotta do this. Alright. Now I gotta do this. Because I need you to know that these outfits are fucking amazing. How long can we derail a Diesel before he ends stream? Oh god. I mean, probably for a while, longer than you'd imagine. I'm gonna just need to rewatch the episodes and then show you guys screenshots that I took personally of outfits that I think are really good. Diesel wants to be oiled up in latex. No. The Major can wear what the Major wants, but I would like the Major to be in front of me oiled up in latex, is what I'm saying, all right? Like, the Major will be like... And here's the thing, like, the movie's very self-serious, right? But the Major will be like... She's kind of like I guess she's a little bit of a manic pixie dream girl, but like... She'll be like a little bit of a quirk chungus, and then she'll be like the hardest bitch in town, and like, you cannot even... Like, she means fucking business. And it's so fucking hot. Yeah, I can't fucking find any screenshots. This is like a very new show. Like it literally just came out. And I'm afraid to show anything more specific from the show because I don't want to get like a dinged by copyright. Outrageous thirst posting. It's only appropriate. It's literally only appropriate. That's like part of the Major's thing. I also definitely need to buy a Fujikoma. I want a Fujikoma model. Yeah, there's not really any good ones on IMDb either. All right. Anyway. The F in FPS stands for filibuster. Like I said, in my defense, I am forever cursed to stream about drama when in reality I could just talk endlessly about just things that I like. You know, which maybe call that autism if you will. I call that the gift of streamer. All right. If fucking Northern Lion can talk about why Frosted Flakes are amazing, but why you shouldn't have them with milk, and that cereal with milk is a conspiracy to get you to buy more milk, then I can talk about the Major's cheeks, okay? These things are the same when you think about them on a conceptual purpose. Anyway, Dark Viper has ended up in the subpoenas related to Take-Two's court cases against the leakers, okay? And to get back on topic, yes, Dark Viper for some fucking reason has ended up in the subpoenas, okay? They're asking for his Discord info, and that he's mentioned by name, and he doesn't know why. And apparently this has something to do with his Discord, which is very funny. I am confused. I didn't say he can't drive multiple times, so maybe I caused him to write CyberLeak can't drive on the most recent clip. Maybe he visited my Discord. I don't know. Rockstar hasn't emailed me. I suspect if they thought I knew something personally, they would do so. Everyone's talking about leaks. I am not special, hopefully. Now, yeah, so anybody who's been talking about the leaks has gotten swept up in this, by the way, which is why I'm very careful not to show anything. But but yes, Dark Viper ended up related because apparently his Discord server had some related clips to leaks. So because he is the owner of that Discord server, he has ended up on the list of people to subpoena their information, which I don't think that Dark Viper has anything, but I do think it is very funny that Mr. Copyright himself has ended up on the receiving end of one of the most litigious corporations that has happened with any game. Yeah, something tells me that Rockstar is about to pull a Hasbro and send the Pinkertons. Yeah, I know. That's just what I was thinking, is that would happen at some point. But to quote the Oreo, he can be part of a landmark copyright case. It's his dream. Yeah. He can finally be involved in a copyright case, just not against who he wants and on the wrong side of it. And yes, cereal was invented to stop you from jerking off. And yeah, I mean, I guess I will say this. If I tried to jerk off with cereal in my bed, that would ruin my vibe. How are you supposed to get comfortable? It's just everywhere. I can't believe I turned that long-winded bit into such a into such like a long meandering conversation. Oh, that is really fucking funny. Anyway, here, let me update the title of this stream. Okay. You do that in bed? I mean, like, we can mix it up. Like, I could do it in different places. I can tell you right now, the concept of jerking off in front of my computer seems like a really awful idea. You know? Like, does that make sense to anybody? If I sit down to jerk off at my computer, it's like I'm fucking Captain Jork of the USS Goonterprise. Okay? There's no universe where I'm doing that. Okay? I only see people do it in the stream chair. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. That's exactly the problem. All right? I don't want to sit down and be like, turn my phasers to jerk off. Like, I don't want to do that. I got fucking 2 monitors here. All right? 3 monitors. If I do that, I'm gonna like get out the joystick. I might as well just start piloting a mech, dude. Piloting a goon mech. Here. You could triple goon? Yeah, I could goon max. But like the possibility, like, even though it wouldn't be very likely that my stream turns on, the possibility that could happen. Like, I have there's a safety switch in place where I can't just hit start streaming in OBS. I go to manage stream, and then it's like pick a live stream, and then it goes live, right? So it would have to require multiple keystrokes in order for me to go live at the computer. But what if like somebody's like watching? What if my FBI agent is watching through my camera? I don't want that. Turn my phasers to come was right there. Diesel missed an opportunity. Sorry, I'm trying to ad-lib this. I'm trying to make it up as I go along. Not every 2 pumps will be a chump, but sometimes 2 pumps is a chump. You know what I mean? Here, let me find my thumbnail for the. There we go. Yeah, the DSP incident has a low percentage of happening, but never 0. Yes. Yes. I don't want to put myself in that position. All right, so 2 days ago, Legal put out a video regarding flock cameras. All right. I need to get educated. I need to learn a little bit more about flock. I already don't like flock just on principle. Speaking of, I can't even jerk off in my car in America. I can't jerk off in my car in America because some cop with nothing but time on their hands is going to look up my license plate and see me jerking off in the empty parking lot of an Applebee's. We used to be a country. I used to be able to jerk off in peace. I'm flocking it. I'm flocking it. Ooh, I'm flocking it crazy style. Fucking, you're diabolical. All right, there's no way. But it's not like anybody's having sex now anymore anyway, you know. Everybody's like sitting at home. Nobody's going to third spaces, okay? Who's having sex in public? Nobody. That's not happening. All right? I know people who have had sex in public, but it was all pre-COVID. People don't have sex in public anymore like they used to. I must be like man ovulating or something. I don't know. Let's watch this fucking stupid fucking video, please.
Lee Schmidt drove around Norfolk, Virginia. He went to work, he went home, he went wherever it is that people go when they're going about their normal
My stream is buffering because there might be there's thunderstorms. It's thunderstorming outside.
lives. During this time, cameras photographed his car 407.
Hey, some of us, not me though. You know, we don't need to single out ourselves when we're bombing, you know.
75 times. Now, keep in mind, he wasn't a suspect. He wasn't even under investigation. and nobody ever ran his plates. But a network of 176 automated license plate readers clustered at intersections across the city simply recorded him over and over again because he owned a car and used the roads. So Schmidt, he decided to do something about it. He sued. And in January of this year, the chief judge of the Eastern District of Virginia wrote this about the system, quote, "It ensnares an immense array of law-abiding citizens guilty of nothing more than driving their cars in Norfolk."
You know, one of the things that's been annoying me about Flock is just how the system seems to ping people, right? So there was a guy who was like, I'm going to say he was held at gunpoint because they just got it wrong. But the police officers thought that this guy was wanted in either a hit and run or a murder, and they stormed his car with guns drawn on the highway in a way that he could have possibly died and been an innocent man. And the police would have not only not gone to prison for committing murder after not doing their job of investigating a crime, they would have just been put on leave from work for a small period of time with pay. And that guy would have been dead, okay? Which is crazy. Or there was a clip recently that I was sent where a lady was seen, quote unquote, porch pirating some packages, but she was never there at the time. And the only reason that they went to her is because she had the same car model as the car model in the Flock footage. And as a result of that, she was having this like police officer who did no investigating say with 100% certainty that it was her, which is insane. Okay, because it just goes to show you that how many police officers are just lazy as fuck.
Naturally, he then ruled for the city. Go figure. 5 months later, the Supreme Court decided a case about something else entirely. This time, it was cell phones, not cars, and in the process may have knocked the legs out from under the reasoning that let the judge make that ruling about Schmidt.
Did you see the guy dressed as Darth Vader talking about Flock? Yeah, I don't think I watched that clip, though. Hold on. I do have it here. Somebody did post it in the...
The Emperor is a fan of Flock, and we must continue utilizing Flock technologies so that we can follow and surveil the rebel scum as they move from playground to playground.
That is really good.
From playground to pool, from pool to gymnasium, because we all know that the Flock cameras are not only following the license plate readers, they are following children. They are following children in parks and gymnasiums, and we need this. I need this so I can stalk my ex-girlfriend. Also, it should be known that the people of this town, the pools that want their storm drains cleared, they should not have their storm drains cleared. Because
the Emperor loves Flock. It allows him to keep track of the rebel scum.
Is the story of a constitutional doctrine quietly coming apart in public, while the case that depends on it sits fully briefed in a federal appeals court with no argument date. And it involves, and I promise you this is relevant, a Super Bowl champion quarterback who has a great deal to say about his own privacy. For most of the modern Fourth Amendment's life, this was easy. In 1983, in United States versus Knotts, the Supreme Court held that a person traveling on public roads, quote, has no reasonable expectation of privacy in his movements from one place to another. Police suspected Leroy Knotts and others of using chemicals to manufacture illegal drugs. They arranged for a chemical supplier to place a small radio transmitter inside a 5-gallon container of chloroform that was then sold to one of Knotts' associates. Officers then followed the container.
Yeah, I've seen that court case used as an argument for why Flock is appropriate, but the entire context for that existing was a completely different universe. It was 1974. All right. If I have a series of cameras that are around, right, and I can track people's location based on that, then I could do a little bit more, right? While I might not have an expectation of privacy in public, where that changes things is that it gives you a heat map of where I go, right? So when I leave public and I enter private, right, this allows you to basically run around in a van and follow me without actually physically having a van there. Because if you know I leave my home and I go to my place of work, right? And you know exactly which road I take, where I go, where I stop, and then I stop at those other places where I have an expectation of privacy, right? What makes that really crazy is that basically, if I was a van with a camera, I would be doing the same thing. But because these are stationary cameras all working in an array, it's okay? No. The process of a flock camera determining where you exist in private is the same as if a guy was following you in a van. It really is. Okay? If you know where I go in private and you're able to discern meaningful actions about my presence in private from the places that I pass by publicly, then you might as well just be fucking following me in a fucking windowless van. But diesel flock cameras help find lost pets. You know, here's the thing. People go missing all the time in cities with flock cameras. Yet for some reason, the police don't find those people.
Traveled by car from Minnesota into Wisconsin using the transmitter after they lost visual contact. The signal led them to Knott's secluded cabin, where officers conducted surveillance and later obtained a search warrant. The search uncovered a clandestine drug laboratory and chemicals and equipment used to manufacture amphetamines. Knott's argued that the warrantless electronic monitoring violated the Fourth Amendment, but the Supreme Court held that it did not because the monitoring revealed only the container's movements along public roads. So how do we apply what happened in Knott's to a license plate? In some ways, the analysis is the same. The plate is displayed publicly because the state requires it, right? And a camera on a pole photographs what any person standing there in public could see. There is no protected interest for the state to invade. That logic has been remarkably durable. Flock Safety's chief legal officer has said more than 30 state and federal courts have concluded that fixed license plate readers are not searches. Knott's was decided in...
But the thing is that these aren't just reading license plates, right? Like, let's throw that out the window right now for all of this, right? These things aren't just license plates or license plate readers because of what they do aside from that. These things are able to track who's there, is able to see your facial recognition. These things are able to determine what kind of technology is in your car, what kind of technology is on your person. They're a lot smarter than just reading your license plate, right? If you're able to read the MAC address or whatever on my fucking phone, that is a lot more than just a license plate reader. If you're able to read the network, the private network of my car, that's not the same thing as a license plate reader, right? These things collect and give off tons of information. It's a lot more than just reading a license plate. It's a lot more than just a camera. Okay? Especially because we know that they're more than just a camera because they exist in places where cars should not be. If they were just license plate readers, why are they on pedestrian-only paths? Why are they over fucking public pools? Why are they on sidewalks? Yeah, it tracks little dents and details like bumper stickers. I want to point out that flock cameras are objectively not in places to catch crimes. They're in places to police poverty. And you can see that with the rich-shaped holes in the network. That's true. That's true. I'm in a pretty affluent town where my business is. There's like 2 flock cameras on the main street, which is already still a problem for me. 1 is too many. But then there's a much poorer city on the other side of the river from us, and the amount of flock cameras that exist there is insane compared to the amount of flock cameras that are in our city.
World where following someone was expensive. It took officers, cars, gasoline, time, taxpayer money. A more limiting constitutional rule would have been helpful for future America, sure. But back then, nobody needed a doctrine limiting mass surveillance of public movement because surveillance of public movement didn't scale. But
we also have to assume that these companies keep your information forever, and that the information is used for everything. Until proven otherwise, you need to assume that to be the case, right? Think about it. If your digital footprint is tied to a digital ID that requires you to access Discord, Twitter, or any other place, and then you leave your home, and then you're tracked by an ALPR, we can just assume that the information is linked together in some kind of behind-the-scenes networking system, right? Because of how much information is being leaked off by everybody at a daily basis. So now that person, that company, Flock, is able to, connect that you're attached to this car. You're this person. You're this person from the internet. Okay, I can sell this to advertisers for advertising. I can sell this to, people on the black market for more nefarious means. I could sell this to the government as a way to catch criminals or a way to catch you or surveil you, right? So all of these things you have to assume are true until proven otherwise, right? You just can't assume that these companies aren't taking that information and squeezing it for all of its worth, right? Do you think that knowing where you go, what car you drive, what kind of bumper stickers you have, what kind of person you are, doesn't help them advertise to you? You have to assume that they're doing that.
Eventually, it scaled.
Hey, Anna, sorry to interrupt, but this case is so fascinating that I immediately started taking notes. And that's why I've been loving the crap out of this. This is the Note Pro from Plod.
Oh no, not a ad.
Court case called United States versus Jones. Police suspected Antoine Jones of drug trafficking and attached a GPS tracking device to his Jeep without a valid warrant authorizing the installation. The device tracked the Jeep's movement for nearly a month, generating a detailed record of everywhere Jones traveled. Based largely on that tracking information, the government charged Jones with drug conspiracy. He then challenged the GPS surveillance under the Fourth Amendment. The Supreme Court ultimately held that attaching the device to the Jeep and using it to obtain information about the vehicle's movements constituted a search because the government had physically trespassed on private property to gather information. So it was a pretty narrow opinion focused on this thing called trespass theory. But here's what Justice Sotomayor said. GPS monitoring, quote, generates a precise, comprehensive record of a person's public movements that reflects a wealth of detail about her familial, political, professional, religious, and sexual association.
Yes, all of those things are tracked and then some, like even more than that. Like I get to know what like socioeconomic class you're in, like who you hang around with, like all of those things, right? I'm going to be able to get a lot out of you just by being able to track your information.
Meanwhile, Justice Alito, writing for 4 justices, so not quite a majority, agreed that longer-term monitoring impinges on expectations of privacy in a way that short-term monitoring simply does not. This is the idea people call the, quote, mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment. The idea is that any one tile tells you nothing, but assemble enough of them and all of a sudden you have a portrait. And the portrait is something the government could never have obtained simply by watching you the way they did back in the day. In 2018, Carpenter versus United States turned that idea into a holding. The government obtained 127 days of historical cell site location information from Carpenter's wireless carrier.
We have to assume, like I said, you got to assume that all these data centers are basically just holding just buckets and buckets of information on you for like literally forever. Okay. Like literally forever.
That allowed investigators to reconstruct his movements over a period of months and place him near several robbery locations. Carpenter argued that obtaining this location data without a warrant violated the Fourth Amendment. The Supreme Court agreed, holding that accessing 7 days or more of historical cell site location information was a search because it created an all-encompassing record of the holder's whereabouts and gave the government near-perfect surveillance, allowing police to travel back in time to retrace a person's steps. Carpenter also declined to extend the third-party doctrine to this category of data. That doctrine comes from 2 older cases. One is United States versus Miller, in which the court held that a person has no Fourth Amendment privacy interest in bank records because those records were created and...
The crazy part about all this, by the way, is that we kind of just got to fight it every time it comes up. I don't know if you guys are like, you know, plugged in like this, but like the reason that a lot of this stuff happened before in these court cases is that because it was the state versus a person. Now it's a corporation, which changes the dynamic quite a bit. They're a corporation that's doing a contracted service, and if the police contract from that, a lot of the legal headaches that come from these court cases don't exist. So even though the process of a flock camera might be the same as in these cases, it's technically different because it's not the police doing it. It's a private corporation. And, well, anybody could access it. Not anybody can access it either, right? They exist as that, you know, kind of expectation, but that's not the reality of it.
Voluntarily given to a bank, a third party. And in Smith versus Maryland, the court reached the same basic conclusion for the phone numbers a person dials. Once you convey that information to the phone company, you assume the risk that it will be disclosed to the government. That's the idea behind the third-party doctrine. But Carpenter left a door open to government surveillance, and the door mattered more than almost anyone noticed at the time. In footnote 3 of its opinion, the court expressly reserved whether acquiring a shorter period of location data would in fact be a search under the Fourth Amendment. The argument for tools like license plate readers was straightforward. Carpenter, on one hand, involved 7 days of continuous location data.
Well, if we lived in Wally, then we would have like the jerk-off chair that like controls your entire life. You know, we don't even get that. I just get like really expensive food and like a glass and my popsicles and surveillance. You know, I don't get the cool dystopia of like eating noodles in the rain with my Hispanic friend. I get all the other bad stuff.
While a license plate reader only captures a vehicle when it happens to pass a particular camera. Those are isolated observations, not a comprehensive record of someone's movements. Snapshots, not surveillance. And courts accepted that argument repeatedly. Then Chaudhry came along. On June 29th, 2026, the Supreme Court decided Chaudhry versus United States. The facts had nothing to do with cars. Police investigated a 2019 bank robbery at a credit union in Virginia, and as a part of that investigation, obtained a geofence warrant. That warrant was an order requiring Google to identify devices present near the credit union during a 1-hour window. Okela Shatri was identified in charge, and he moved to suppress the warrant issued to Google. Justice Kagan, writing for a majority that included the Chief Justice and Justices Sotomayor, Kavanaugh, and Jackson, held that obtaining that location history was a Fourth Amendment search. Justice Gorsuch, meanwhile, concurred on a property-based theory of the Fourth Amendment. Finally, Justice Alito dissented, joined by Justice Thomas and in part by Justice Barrett, warning that the decision would send seismic waves through our Fourth Amendment doctrine. Now, step back from all that for a second and realize that really this case did 3 big things. First, and most consequentially, it closed footnote 3. The court held that duration alone does not determine whether surveillance constitutes a search. And
technically anyone can access it, but they're definitely letting people who pay. Well, you could also have stipulations that the only people who could pay are like government entities. I mean, theoretically, yeah, I could buy a fucking Tomahawk missile, but is Lockheed Martin really gonna sell me a Tomahawk missile? Even if I have the capital for a Tomahawk missile? Probably not. In fact, I would probably get a visit from the feds.
Behind this is that there are 2 problems.
So if I rob a credit union, I should leave my phone at home because it'll snitch on me? Technically, anytime you do any kind of action that you are worried about the police in any situation, again, assuming it is lawful, okay? So if you are protesting and you're exhibiting your rights, you probably should like go with a group and designate a person to either carry a phone or all not carry a phone and not go to the location with a phone or anything that could be picked up by like some kind of system that can track information, right? So like smartwatches, fucking fitness wearables, literally anything, smart shoes, fucking cars with like, if your car has Bluetooth in it, you need to park far away from wherever you're going. Yeah, they could track you. Like they could track you if your phone is off.
With drawing a bright line rule based on time. For one thing, even a short period of surveillance can reveal highly sensitive information about a person's life. And for another thing, any fixed temporal threshold would quickly become unworkable. I mean, is 4 hours enough? What about 2 hours? What about 2-hour periods separated by a 15-minute gap? The Fourth Amendment can't sensibly turn on arbitrary increments of time like that. Justice Kagan illustrated the first point with a list of places a short window might reveal. For example, the psychiatrist, the plastic surgeon, the abortion clinic, the AIDS treatment center, the strip club, the criminal defense attorney, the by-the-hour motel. Then she added something else. A durational limit, she wrote, would let the government target discrete activities. She named a gun show and a political rally with no oversight at all. So that's the first point. Now,
I'm talking about locking and unlocking your phone. Yeah, so like another thing is like, and you saw this with the Reckless Ben stuff when he was getting like hassled by the police and his friends were getting hassled by the police. They got really mad when his friend locked his phone, not because he was like obstructing, but because he was stopping them from just using Face ID to unlock his phone, right? Because if he needs to put in a password, they could be like, put in your password. He could be like, I don't remember it. And even though he might be lying, they have to just assume he's telling the truth. You can't make somebody type a passcode into your phone, but the police can make you use Face ID or your fingerprint to open up a phone. What if you take out the SIM card? No, it still has all these antennas in it. Your phone produces these antennas regardless of whether or not there's a SIM card in it.
Second thing this case did is it took a hard look at the third-party doctrine, and it didn't buy it. The government argued that Google location history is different from cell site data because users have to opt in. Voluntary sharing, the argument went, defeats any expectation of privacy. The court rejected that argument and expressed skepticism that clicking through the terms of service constitutes meaningful consent at all. Finally, the third thing Chatri did was it actually named the stakes. The opinion describes the risk as a virtual panopticon, which, for the nerds out there, is reportedly the first appearance of that word in a majority opinion of the Supreme Court. The court then returned to language it had used since the 1960s, that the Fourth Amendment exists to place, quote, obstacles in the way of a too permeating police surveillance. That brings us back to the Schmidt case.
Yeah, journalists have been killed because of their phones pinging, yeah. Or think about that guy who, like, there was a guy recently who went through the U.S.-Mexico border and wiped his phone as he was going through the border. He had, like, graphene OS on it, and he wiped his phone when he got there, and they arrested him for that. Now, I will say it is a little weird, one, to be running around with graphene OS on your phone. Maybe he's a privacy-focused person. That's totally fine. I think that, you know, you should be able to do that. It's just like, wouldn't you have, like, wiped your phone earlier? Or maybe he did wipe his phone earlier. I'm a little iffy on the details. I just kind of, like, read that in passing. But it was, like, one of those moments where it was like, okay, that's... Yeah, he gave the panic pin. Yeah. It's he was probably just like getting a hooker in Tijuana or something, man, you know? They arrested him before the wipe. Okay.
Schmidt versus City of Norfolk was filed in October 2024 by 2 Norfolk residents represented by the Institute for Justice. In February of 2025, Chief Judge Mark Davis denied the city's motion to dismiss that case, relying on Carpenter. But then, 11 months later, on January 27, 2026, he granted the city's summary judgment motion in a 51-page opinion. His central holding boiled down to this: plaintiffs are unable to demonstrate the defendant's ALPR system, that's automatic license plate reader, is capable of tracking the whole of a person's movements. That is a quantitative threshold. It says this system captures a lot, but not enough. And Judge Davis distinguished Carpenter, and he distinguished the Fourth Circuit's own decision in Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle versus Baltimore Police Department, where the en banc court held.
Yeah, I think the issue there was that the wipe was done after the arrest. Yeah. Yeah, that's really it. That's really it. I don't know. It's like if you're going to go through a customs border and you are worried about feds checking your phone, you would just do that in advance anyway. You know, like you don't swallow the cocaine at the border, you swallow it at the cocaine plant.
The Baltimore's aerial surveillance program violated the Fourth Amendment because accessing aggregated data that lets police deduce identity from the whole of a person's movements is a search. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Now look, Spencer talked a bit about that case in his video on Ring cameras. If you want to know more, watch that video because that case is crazy. Judge Davis reasoned that aerial surveillance was continuous, whereas cameras at intersections are intermittent. He also leaned on the 21-day retention period. Now put Chaudhry next to that. Chaudhry says the amount of coverage is not the test, that sensitive information comes out of short windows, and that drawing quantitative lines is simply unworkable in principle. Every word of that seems to undermine the reasoning Judge Davis used, right? And just to be clear, the Supreme Court has never actually decided an ALPR case, that's automatic license plate reader case, but this certainly draws questions about his method. It has been.
By the way, we need to stop calling them ALPRs, okay? When we call them ALPRs, we're talking about this in the realm that Flock or Axon want you to, which, by the way, I am going to mention the other company, which is owned by Motorola, I think, in this conversation, because usually like cities are breaking their contracts with Flock and then going with Axon. They're not ALPRs. They are surveillance cameras, okay? Calling them ALPRs is making them sound less scary. They are surveillance cameras.
Docketed since February 26 and fully briefed since late June, currently with no argument scheduled. The Fourth Circuit, where this...
They are a surveillance mesh network, okay? Using the language of the enemy. Yeah, they're a surveillance camera mesh network that has a system that allows police officers to access your movements without a warrant.
Case is being heard is the court that already decided Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. It is also the court that the Supreme Court reversed in Chaudhry. And remember, they reversed the Fourth Circuit specifically because it held that sharing data with a third party defeats an expectation.
Yeah, the worst part of all of this is that the cops operate in a way where they know the rules will break the rules, and the expectations is for you to know enough to call them out when they break. Yeah.
The Fourth Circuit panel now has a case that has to wrestle with whether quantitative thresholds still work. Massachusetts addressed these same issues 6 years ago. In Commonwealth versus McCarthy, the Supreme Judicial Court adopted a mosaic approach under the state constitution and the Fourth Amendment. It held that 4 cameras on the 2 bridges to Cape Cod didn't reveal enough, but it wrote the sentence that has been hanging over this area ever since. Quote, with enough cameras in enough locations, the data would invade a reasonable expectation of privacy and constitute a search for constitutional purposes. So we have 2 courts 6 years apart, both saying that the case before them was fine, but that there's a constitutional line somewhere. The problem is nobody has drawn it. Now, I have a lot more I want to say about that, but let's just say my thoughts are not exactly always advertiser friendly by YouTube standards. In fact, there's a whole segment of this video that you're not seeing because the only way to watch it is to watch it on Nebula.
Me when I gotta subscribe for Netflix for guys who make video essays. Oh. Netflix for video essays sounds horrible, man.
When one door closes, a window opens? Well, there's a gap in Chaudhry that might just give Flock exactly what it needs. Chaudhry was about the government compelling a company to hand over data. It served a warrant to Google, and the company complied. That is not the ALPR business model, though. Flock is a private company. It owns and operates the cameras, holds the images on its own servers, and sells access to those images. A meaningful share of its network is cameras owned by private parties entirely, homeowners associations, businesses.
Which is crazy, by the way, which is crazy, all right? So when I go to the gym, I drive by a flock camera, and the flock camera is on the property of a farm, of a local farm. And it's not like It's like a not a local farm. It is a farmer's. It is their retail location for their farm. So they farm stuff at their farm that they also use as like a tourist location, and then they take their stuff from that farm and bring it to this retail store, which is like a small little farm shop with some storage, with some warehouse. And they have a flock camera on their property. They have a surveillance camera on their property pointed out towards the main road. Now, they got money for putting that on the road, and they were probably sold, or they could have been sold that. Maybe they paid for the pleasure, right? On the basis of like, this will stop you from getting robbed. But it's like, why the fuck would you need a flock camera? Who the fuck is robbing your place? Like, I'm never shopping at either your orchard, one, because it's expensive, but then two, at your store, because you have a fucking surveillance camera on your fucking lawn, dude. Why? You don't need it.
Schools, hospitals, all of which opt into sharing with law enforcement. Chaudhry says nothing about whether the government may simply purchase.
And also, everything I learn about homeowners associations is against my will, but we probably need to get rid of homeowners associations because they seem to only exist to make you like really fucking irritated, annoyed, and to keep out the riffraff from your neighborhood. Okay, like literally it only seems like it's an extra cost to like owning a home that shouldn't exist. Okay, why the fuck does my fucking development, okay, in this fucking cul-de-sac hellscape have to also include a group of grandmas who all hang around together and get annoyed that my lawn isn't the appropriate length and that I have to keep the character of the neighborhood good by not putting a fucking lawn gnome in my front lawn? Are you fucking kidding me? I gotta pay $400 a year for the privilege of somebody being annoying across the street? That's ridiculous.
Data from private parties that it would otherwise need a warrant to compel. And Carpenter and
It's to keep out the colors. Well, yeah, I know that is like one of the macro things of it. But if I'm just thinking about it from like a purely utilitarian homeowner's standard, there's literally no reason for an HOA to exist. Like, what is the pitch for an HOA? Oh, we're going to be able to work together to like fight for things for our neighborhood against the town. It's like, what? When? Where? When the fuck do fucking HOAs do anything aside from be annoying? I've never heard anybody say anything good. We need to send them up the river, is what I'm saying. Flock is the consequence of people believing that every city is a lawless hellscape is shoplifters when there's no evidence that there's been an uptick of shoplifting. Well, by the way, fucking this actually been less crime. More like since COVID, like crime has been on a downswing for a long time.
Both carve exceptions out of the third-party doctrine without defining the exception's contours, all of which raises a question the courts have barely even touched. Is any of this even state action? And that's really important here because the Fourth Amendment restrains government, not private parties.
Yeah, so like literally the entire reason that we're sitting here and like talking about Flock and Axon and all of these like surveillance system businesses is because it's all related to the government. But the thing is that the Constitution and the government and pretty much all of it has to catch up with the times. Corporations, this looks AI. No, this woman is a real person. This is on Legal. That's crazy. But like, I completely lost my train of thought from that. Fuck. You think she's a real ginger? I think you guys need to work on some things. Fun fact, you can start a tenants union and use it to fight HOAs trying to move in. Interesting. Interesting. I like that. God.
Private actor becomes a state actor when the government so far insinuates itself into the
Oh, yeah, I remember what I was going to say now. America needs to reckon with the fact that corporate America has completely ingrained itself in government, and either we need to try and root it out because we find that it's the antithesis of democracy, or we need to regulate it in a way that actually, no, we need to root it out. That's my position, is we need to root it out. There's no fucking reason. Mark Zuckerberg should not be able to make the laws. All right? Mark Zuckerberg should not be able to throw $1 billion at a problem until he can lobby the problem away. Period. The same way that Flock shouldn't be able to do the same. These companies have way too much power in our government, and the fact that normal people have to fight tooth and nail in order to get their representatives to represent them is a problem, all right?
That it's fairly attributable to the state. That's the test. The cases that establish these principles include Lugar versus Edmondson Oil, Brentwood Academy, and Skinner versus Railway Labor Executives, just in case you're looking for some late night sleeping material. But what does Flock say to the private camera question? Well, they argue that an HOA's ALPR is just a doorbell camera. It's lots of private people voluntarily sharing footage with police. So how exactly does this work in practice? Here's how. Private cameras get pulled into a network built and marketed for law enforcement use. Police departments contract for the cameras, influence their placement, receive the alerts, and query the database. That may or may not be state action. But the way private companies are intertwined with law enforcement agencies is getting so much more complex. In June of 2025, Aaron Rodgers, yes, that Aaron Rodgers, went on the Pat McAfee show and said this about the culture of surveillance.
It's a sick society, isn't it? It's a sick society. What is the entitlement to information that we're living in society these days?
Later, Rodgers said paparazzi had been flying drones over his house and that it had gotten bad enough that he left his longtime home in Malibu. Yep, that sounds pretty.
Yeah, it's so insane that some states allow companies to vote in local elections.
Pretty bad. I would not want to be chased by paparazzi either. But just a short while before I sat down to record this video, the news outlet Foyaball reported that Rodgers, who recently moved to a small town in New Jersey, quietly funded that town's police department's purchase of a set
No fucking shit, all right? Well, every single guy in the fucking NFL's got like fucking the TBI. Of course. Of course, he gets the privacy because he's a wealthy person, okay? But the common man cannot.
Flock-style license plate cameras. He used an LLC as a cutout to shield his identity, and apparently residents didn't even know about
Well,
his
that's even worse, actually, okay? He actually knew what he was doing.
involvement. There are several things to point out here. First, donating equipment to a police department is not illegal, and it's not even unusual. Second, the outlet describes the cameras as flock style, which may or may not mean flock. But as an illustration of the problem, notice what the state action doctrine can and cannot do with this. The test all ask the same question. When has the government so insinuated itself into private conduct that the private act becomes attributable to the state? Here, the Rodgers cameras run in the other direction. They aren't private cameras that police just happen to use. They're police cameras that a private citizen happened to buy. So state action isn't really a hard question for those. The department operates them, receives the alerts, and queries the database. The Fourth Amendment analysis applies cleanly. What makes this problematic is that without the reporting, the town wouldn't even know. Normally, a town acquires a surveillance system through a budget line. Maybe there's a council vote and sometimes even a public hearing. That process is the political check. It's how residents find out a network exists and how they get a say in whether it should. It took a journalist filing records requests to surface all this. The invisibility of these systems and the processes and
Yeah, I really need to get involved in my local politics. You know, the thing is that I probably have more viewers and more subscribers than there are people that live in my town. Like my town. Like I legitimately am like more of a political threat in my local neighborhood than I probably give myself credit for. Because it's like I'm not gonna be like running for fucking New York governor. I'm just some fucking local yokel, but like no surveillance in my backyard, brother. I don't even get that far before I see my first flock camera, okay? After I leave the suburban hellscape. It does legitimately make me furious. It is up there on like my top 5 list of things that annoy me as a taxpayer.
which they get in place is a big reason this body of law is so underdeveloped. Not because courts have blessed these systems, but because almost nobody finds out about it in time to sue or put a stop to it through the political process. Private funding skips that process. An LLC cut out routes around even the disclosures that would tell you whose decision it was. So you get a system with the constitutional profile of government surveillance and the procurement profile of a gift. And it should also raise questions about whether the private citizen could ask the cops to make inquiries from those cameras for his personal use. And look, I don't have an answer to these questions, and some of them—
Oh, brother, you know for a fact if you're somebody that has a little bit of affluence in a local politic, that you are able to move those police and make them do things, all right? Let's not even joke there, okay? If you guys grew up in, like, a small town, you probably knew someone who was, like, a big honcho business motherfucker, and they 100% could make the police do jumps, okay? 100%. I have seen it, bro. It is crazy.
Seem like maybe more like political questions rather than straightforward legal questions. But what I do know is that the surveillance state is expanding, so we sure as hell better start figuring it out. Now, let's suppose the Fourth Circuit reverses and holds that the camera network in Schmidt is a search. Very little would immediately change, and the reasons are worth understanding here. Under Davis versus United States, reasonable reliance on binding appellate—
Yeah, I really hope somebody mentions the national security threat Flock is. Yeah. To ape exactly what you told me, KJ. KJ brought up a very good point when we were talking about Flock amongst ourselves. He had said how It's like if a police officer who has access to Flock in New York can access the Flock network throughout the entire nation and could access anybody's license plate that has been caught on a Flock camera, which is assumedly pretty much any American, we can reasonably assume that if we are able to like flip that police officer, right? Let's say you're like a Chinese spy and you do like a honeypot. You could just honeypot literally any cop who has access to the Flock network. And then you could use that cop that has access to the Flock network to track any license plate that you have access to. So if you know the license plate of a famous diplomat, you're able to track that using the police officer you just flipped, who's just a normal fucking police officer who could blend into the background of the entire force that he's a part of. And then you could track that important person's license plate, where they go, find out where they go, and then make them disappear.
The precedent bars the exclusionary rule.
It doesn't even need to be foreign. It could be a homegrown one too. It could literally be anybody. Literally anybody. Okay? Fucking cops are not trained that well. Do you think cops are screened for national security and like federal level security like that? Okay? Against like actual dangerous fucking like spies? Dude, it's not that hard. They're not those guys. They're not him. He wouldn't be a state trooper if that was the case.
Given how many decisions hold that ALPRs aren't searches, officers in most jurisdictions can claim that they relied in good faith on those decisions at the time they executed the search, even after the law changes. Unfortunately, this is not hypothetical. Timothy Carpenter won at the Supreme Court and then lost on good faith grounds on remand, meaning in essence that his rights were violated, but the police essentially weren't liable for it and the conviction stands. Then there's standing. Schmidt gets at this problem. Judge Davis held the plaintiffs did have standing to challenge the capture and retention of their plate data, but he held they lacked standing to challenge warrantless querying of the database because the city had never run a query on them. Think about what that means. The query is pulling up one person's movement history across weeks.
I saw Police Academy. They pick anyone.
That's the act most like what Carpenter and Chaudhry condemned, and it is the hardest thing to get in front of a judge because you have to have been queried and you will almost never know that you were. Defendants rarely learn ALPR data was used against them unless they find it in discovery or file a motion to suppress. But a defendant actually has to file such a motion in order to develop the law. The First Amendment doesn't necessarily help the way you would think either. I mean, it sounds bad, right? A system that logs every trip to a church, to a union hall, or to an abortion clinic. Justice Kagan's own list makes a version of that point. It encroaches on an individual's freedom of association. But Laird versus Tatum held that subjective chill from surveillance without more isn't a justiciable controversy, and this was reinforced in later decisions. Realistically, the First Amendment operates here as an aggravated factor in the Fourth Amendment analysis, rather than as a standalone claim. So where does all of this go? The doctrine is moving in one direction, albeit slowly. From Knotts to Jones to Carpenter to Chaudhry, the Supreme Court's Fourth Amendment jurisprudence reflects a roughly 40-year shift away from the proposition that information exposed to the public is categorically unprotected and toward the recognition that aggregation can make surveillance qualitatively different. Chaudhry removed what may have been the
See, like, really one of the things here is like the anonymity of crowds doesn't really exist, and it's almost like made worse by the fact that we kind of all exist in little siloed places, right? Tracking a car is much easier than tracking a person too, and in America, you move primarily by a car. If a car is so much easier to track, that definitely changes the factors on whether or not you have the ability to be private in a crowd, right? That does, because it's so much bigger, it's so much easier, right? There's so many more avenues that you could spy on a person through a car. It's much harder to put a GPS tracker on a person that they don't take off. But if I slide under your car and I put a GPS tracker, you're probably not going to notice.
last obvious quantitative escape hatch. It is increasingly difficult to read that line of cases and conclude that a permanent networked retrospective record of where a person's vehicle has traveled sits comfortably beyond the Fourth Amendment. But the vendor structure may outrun the doctrine. Every one of those cases involved the government compelling production. If the government can buy
Yeah, that would also be really bad if the police were brought into the DOD and or in any way were nationalized. Then we have bigger problems.
what it would otherwise have to seize, the doctrine's growth doesn't reach the practice.
It's not even full clown makeup would help, because the facial recognition can track your like bone structure or your gait or how you walk, right? Which is gait. So I'm just saying the same thing twice. But like these things do all of that, right? So you would need to deliberately mess with facial recognition by wearing something that distorts the face, or something that distorts the ability to track what clothes you wear, or something that changes your gait, you'd basically need to act like a completely different person who's never existed.
Serious fight is about purchasing records, and Chaudhry said nothing about it. The answer will probably come from state courts and legislatures. State constitutions are frequently more protective, and a state constitutional ruling is insulated from federal review. Meanwhile, legislatures are simply moving faster than courts. Virginia enacted restrictions in 2025, limiting permissible uses and data sharing. Staunton canceled its contract that December. By May of this year, reporting indicated more than 80 localities across roughly 28 states had terminated or deactivated flock contracts. And the record is being built somewhere else entirely. A class action filed in San Francisco Superior Court in February alleges that federal and out-of-state agencies queried SFPD's flock cameras roughly 1.6 million times in 7 months. Those are
which is not surprising, right? All of these out-of-state agencies are pinging into a local agency to read their fucking cameras.
Claims, not constitutional ones.
They track literally any EMF coming off of you and make a fingerprint to find you. Yeah, pretty much.
But discovery there could produce the one thing no constitutional case has, the query records. Here's the thing I keep returning to. McCarthy said with enough cameras in enough locations, this becomes a search. Schmidt said this system can't track the whole of a person's movements, implying that a bigger one could. Both courts accepted
If I could track you from coast to coast in America, it's that bad.
Theory, but neither told anyone where the line is. Maybe the courts are waiting for the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the networks keep growing, the cameras keep photographing people 475 times in 4 months. The uncomfortable possibility is that there is no line to draw, that how much surveillance is too much was never a question courts could answer, and that the Fourth Amendment's role here ends at recognizing the problem while somebody else solves it. If that's right, the interesting action isn't in the Fourth Circuit after all. It's in state or federal legislatures.
Now, all this highlights why it's so important to get a great lawyer when you're dealing with your own case. Now,
Oh my god, lawyer ad. But yeah, it really seems like one of those things where it's gonna need to be taken down like one small piece at a time. Like literally one small piece at a time. Rather than everything all at once. Which is frustrating, but it seems to be where everything is right now. Yeah. So I don't, and to be clear, the reason I am doing this, because it's not just Flock, they're tracking your internet usage when you log in and off. The idea is they can make a whole day of the life using all this data to find criminals. Yeah, I do believe it's called Minority Report. If you ever heard of it, you know, little movie, you might have heard of it, Minority Report. But the reason that I decided to do this stream was this TikTok, so I'm gonna bring it up now. Here we go. So here's Ben Jordan, who's kind of become like a privacy advocate, but he was like originally like a sound and music YouTuber.
Excited to go to Flock's big police convention.
Movie, it was a book. All right. Sorry, guys. Some people don't read.
Flock Forward. I bought a $350 ticket and booked a hotel room at the Hilton in Atlanta. But then Flock said, no journalists allowed, which is really kind of weird, considering that your tax dollars are usually paying for the tickets your public servants buy. Then
which is true.
Flock employee contacted the hotel on my behalf and canceled my room without notifying me. So I couldn't even be in the building.
We received an email from a Shannon Jones requesting that the reservation be canceled.
Flock could keep our...
It's really funny that you could just call and be like, who told you to cancel? Yeah, Shannon Jones.
bodies out of the convention, but they couldn't block our electromagnetic frequencies. We captured packets from every single Wi-Fi channel we could find, using dozens of Wi-Fi adapters in monitor mode. Then we...
Which is crazy, by the way. You know the police have like specific tools that are like this, but like one item that do the same thing? Like, you can make your own. Like, Ben made his own, but you could just straight up fucking do that.
Used a 2.4 gigahertz parabolic dish antenna to passively capture the
Yeah, the irony of the camera company doesn't want the wrong camera in the building.
Bluetooth information of just about everyone at the conference. Then we...
If they're true, like, it's very funny how the people who make the laws and the people who run the surveillance system don't want to be surveilled. It's almost like these guys know it's a problem, but they benefit from it. And they're deathly afraid of the public pulling out guillotines about it.
We used a log periodic dipole array and multiple SDRs to demodulate the wireless microphones used in their stage and camera production. These silly gooses even forgot to turn the microphones off when they weren't presenting or recording, so we captured some of their mingling. Then I flew my drone with a zoom lens over the convention as it was letting out. Cool! Looks like lots of police and politicians got tons of free swag. Recognize these attendees? If not, that's okay. We can just use facial recognition.
Oh my god. That's actually phenomenal. What the fuck?
Oh my god. I can't believe I was only a drone flight away from Minnesota Senator Julianne Ortman.
Oh, nice.
This little drone flight allowed us to find out that Senator Ortman is a managing partner of Public Safety Strategies Group, which is led by Rich Stanek, the former sheriff of Hennepin County covering Minneapolis. And guess what? Flock pays them as consultants to find confidential leads to new police contracts around the country. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So thank you, Flock, for banning journalists from your dumbass convention. We had more fun out here and learned a whole lot more. Stay tuned.
Yeah, so at some point Ben is going to publish the full video of this. He also he's also done a couple of other things about like pretty much everything related to all of this. They've done a lot. He's done a lot. Like, I can't even begin to cover all of the stuff that he has covered related to Flock. I know that he recently did this video with this other guy, which is pretty recent, so I'll pull that one up.
I was excited to...
Yeah, kickbacks used to be illegal.
Folks, I'm currently being stopped by police for doing...
Okay, here we go. This was filmed a month ago.
A story on mass surveillance and a company that are putting cameras in your neighborhood.
So this is a YouTuber by the name of Tommy G and Ben Jordan doing some coverage on Flock.
Safety. Let's see where this thing goes.
Crime. It's a complex problem that requires so many people to work together to solve. And at Flock, it's our mission to eliminate.
Why is it that every single one of these guys who works at a tech company is doing some weird LARP as Steve Jobs or like one of the others, right? Because they all do the same thing, right? The amount of tech guys I see now that do quarter zip, that do the quarter zip thing that I see Sam Altman wear all the time. I'm beginning to think that any white man who wears a quarter zip and khaki chinos with fucking boat shoes, okay, or mocks, okay, is clearly up to some nefarious purposes. But he even talks with that soft, even keel that Sam Altman talks about when he's like lying through his teeth.
Former Milwaukee police officer pled guilty to using the Flock camera
They
system.
think it'll help, yeah.
Police say he used it to track a romantic partner and friend.
Hey there, we got an interview here.
For Flock?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's just people wanting to make a lot of money.
I mean, that's pretty much it, right? If you really want to make a lot of money, you just kind of need to be like morally bankrupt and then be like, yeah, I want to work at Flock as an engineer.
Look at that shit. That's a new one. They're surveilling Flock right now.
Sir, you're under surveillance.
What are you doing running around in the street?
None of your business except for I'm surveilling you right now. Are you with Flock?
No, there's a construction firm I work with, CSD.
99% match.
God.
They're trying to either gain access to the site and we don't want them on site, and I don't know if they're armed or not.
And you notice how it's always funny how the second anybody starts looking into some guy who's doing something bad, the first thing they say is these guys have guns or they commit crimes or they're a pedophile. Like, that literally just happened with Reckless Ben.
Hello, folks. I'm boots on the ground journalist Tommy G, and this is a Flock camera. And you may have noticed cameras.
This Tommy G guy looks like that guy who smokes cigarettes for like a YouTube channel. You know the cigarette smoking guy? Do we know about that guy?
Like this popping up around your city.
Hi, I'm Ben Jordan, a researcher and journalist. As of today, Flock Safety has installed over 100,000 cameras all over America, so chances are that Flock is in your city even if you don't know it. And today, we are teaming up to investigate Flock Safety.
That's right. Today, we're going to spy on Flock employees to see how they like being under surveillance.
If you go to Google or Flock's own website, the address of their corporate headquarters will lead you to an empty building. The actual address is kept private.
And today, we even reveal their secret secret
Yeah, it would be terrible if people figured out that the interior mirrors and the cameras are susceptible to handheld laser pointers. Yeah. The fucking the Sam Hyde bit where he's like, "This is the world's most powerful laser," and he points the laser at the screen and it ruins the camera.
operation, and we get boxed in by police.
We're going to cover the biggest red flags to be aware of when it comes to Flock and arm you with the information you need to know about the surveillance takeover coming to a city near you.
In this episode, we'll cover the arguments.
I haven't checked my license plate on D-Flock yet, but I am curious to know.
For Flock?
And also the many arguments against Flock.
Folks, we're here in Atlanta, Georgia on a surveillance mission. We are headed to Flock Safety, the headquarters. You probably have seen cameras from Flock in your city. And how are they getting there? Well, from city council approval. And I want to know what the will of the people is. Do they want Flock in their city? Because I do agree this is a complex issue with good points on either side. What is the slippery slope of what we're willing to allow under the selling point of safety, which is, of course, how they always make things more tight and tyrannical. So
I almost feel like, I don't know, I maybe cops are just like fucking dullards in every country. Maybe that's possible. But I feel like America is very susceptible to the dullard police officer. Maybe they like do their job in other countries. I don't know, but I feel like Flock is particularly bad here because they're stupid. You know, like maybe if they were better at their job, or maybe if they were like more well trained, I wouldn't be so like pissed about being surveilled. You know, if Flock cameras have 64 gigabytes of RAM, damn. No wonder them things is so expensive.
Straight, find our way in. I'll see you guys on the ground. So what we're finding here is it appears to be a nondescript building, which I think is kind of funny. We surveil people, but we also want our own privacy. Kind of a contradiction in my book. But so we're gonna throw a drone up, do our own little reconnaissance, and then we'll move in on the target and get some license plates.
We started off with a simple mission: surveil Flock employees to understand this company's attitude towards being watched. We were also going to film Flock employee license plates so I could bring this footage to Ben, run it through an algorithm, and understand how invasive this data gathering can be. But what we found is this multi-billion-dollar company was not so easy to find.
Miguel had a good point, which was, like, if your son got kidnapped, like, wouldn't you want Flock cameras around so that you could track that car very quickly? And the answer is yes. Where a lot of people get nervous is when you see places like China with a social credit score, and you know
that's wrong, by the way. I would just like to say that the social credit score thing and from China is wrong. So that is actually a byproduct of U.S. propaganda that you've all been led to believe. I didn't actually know that until recently either, so I thought it was true too. But yeah, so the social credit system, when it was looked into about everything related to it, it was actually something more specific. And actually, you know what? Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up, right? Let's pull it up because everybody thought this was real, and it turns out that it's not actually that. Yeah, Tor's Cabinet did a video on it. Yeah. Let me see. All right, so here's foreignpolicy.com. I hate when they do this. God fucking damn it. Let me go to paywall bypass. Sorry, I know you guys need your money, but I don't have any. Okay. I think Tor showed this in his video. So this will probably be what I use. Okay. All right. China's social credit score, untangling the myth from reality. The idea that a Chinese citizen, that in China, every citizen is given a social credit score continues to capture the horrified imagination of many. But it's more a boogeyman than reality. Instead, we should be worrying about other more invasive surveillance practices, and not just in China, argues Merrick's analyst Vincent Brucey. This is the Mercator Institute for China Studies, by the way. But this, I do believe, is the thing in question, right? What if every action that you took in your life was recorded in a score like it was a video game? If your score drops to 950, you'll be subject to re-education. It's the beginning of slavery and blah, 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 right? So it's basically pitching this China's social credit, right? There are some statements made in parliamentary debates in Europe and online commentaries about China's social credit system. So what are the facts related to China's social credit system? First, a system does exist, but it's very different from what is imagined by the critics outside of China. The biggest disconnect is around the notion of scores. Some commentators seem to imagine that a magic algorithm draws from AI cameras and internet surveillance all over the country to calculate a score that determines everyone's place in society. In reality, the social credit score is not a techno-dystopian nightmare we fear. It is lowly digitized, highly fragmented, and primarily focused on businesses. More importantly, such a score simply does not exist. Here's a quick, brief explanator that they made a graph of, okay? Common misconceptions. There is no score that dictates a citizen's place in society. Some cities or companies have experimented with rating systems, but these are merely loyalty reward programs. Citizens cannot be penalized for low scores. A national all-encompassing social credit score for citizens is highly unlikely to ever materialize. The social credit system is primarily a tool for mass surveillance of individuals. The social credit system primarily focuses on businesses and marketplace behavior. Individuals are primarily included concerning debt repayment and in their role as a legal representative of companies. Not more than 0.2% of individuals receive social credit-related penalties annually. The social credit system does not constantly monitor and assess individual behavior. Only violations of laws and regulations can serve as grounds for punishment. Citizens cannot land on a blacklist for playing too many games, occasionally jaywalking, having untrustworthy friends, etc. Recent regulations have further restricted the scope of the inclusion of individual behavior. Social credit system is low-tech and fragmented. Virtually all social credit-related decisions are taken by humans, not AI. Digitization of the decision remains limited, and data sharing challenges hamper its implementation. This will remain the case for the coming decade. Even attempts are made to slowly integrate and digitize the system. Social credit system will not be complete anytime soon. It's been worked on since 2001 and is still far from complete. 2020 was the end of the key construction phase, but the system will remain under development for at least the coming decade. There's still a dynamic debate on what a social credit system should even become, even within China's administration. The focus for the coming years will be to integrate information sharing systems to establish a unified standard and improve legal basis. So a lot of what the understanding of this seems to be related more to not just businesses, but also politicians. So like the people who get social credit scores in China, to the best of my understanding from reading about it, even before this, and of course Tor's Cabinet of Curiosities, Tor spent time in China, speaks Mandarin, and like understands this stuff at like a much more robust level than I ever could. It's a really good video. I highly recommend it. But it's like politicians, business representatives, or people of that kind of class are the ones that get it. And even then, it's only in specific circumstances, in specific provinces of China that kind of like work and use this. And it's only used in like one or two in very specific circumstances. And the people that end up like getting a social credit score system are usually involved in politics, right? So there are people that are involved with like the parliament in China are the ones that are basically getting the social credit score systems. Or people who are like seriously fucking problems, like seriously fucking problems. Like you or I probably wouldn't get a social credit score. It wouldn't happen, right? Because you as a chatter, not really much going on. Me as a nobody streamer, not a lot is happening. If I was on Douyin, though, I'd probably be banned for talking about like something more specific. Probably not even this. I could probably talk about this on Douyin just fine, or Red Note or whatever, or fucking Baidu or whatever the fuck their YouTube equivalent is. I could probably talk about this on there too. It probably wouldn't even be an issue, right? It would be more specific things that would end up with me ending up on there. But you don't get Weibo, thank you. But you and I would not get a social credit score. It wouldn't happen. It doesn't exist. There is no fucking social credit score. It's a fucking lie. It's not only is it a fucking lie, it is quite literally propaganda. It is literally propaganda. Like, trust me, I'm not like a fucking like bootlicker for fucking Xi Jinping, okay? Because he's definitely like in the legacy making phase that our current president is in. All right, where he's like, I gotta make my legacy. Time to invade Taiwan. Definitely fucking problem. But like, let's call a spade a spade. That's an issue. That's a fucking issue. It's Billy, yeah, Billy, Weibo, both of those things. Yeah, sing it, Guaylo. Right? So it's like really fucking irritating that this is something that has proliferated so long. It is propaganda, and Americans don't realize that it's propaganda. All right? I know there's a joke about like an American and a Soviet are having a conversation, and Americans like, man, I feel really bad that you guys have so much propaganda telling you what to think. And the guy's like, yeah, I know I have a lot of propaganda, but my propaganda is nothing compared to American propaganda. And then the American says, what propaganda? And that's the joke, right? I butchered the joke, by the way, but that's like the crux of the joke is that you don't even know. The infrastructure required like that would be like 1.4 billion people to be monitored 24/7. Like that would be crazy. Yeah. This is the article. This article is mentioned by Tor a lot. I'm going to read the rest of this now since we're here. The social credit score system, which emerged in China in the early 2000s, was inspired by the credit scoring practices elsewhere in the world, such as FICO in the United States. So you're telling me that China decided to make a social credit score system on the basis of our fucking social credit score system? That's interesting. It's almost like America's had a fucking social credit score system on the basis of their capitalist society. Interesting. Makes you think. Wait, no one knew that? Yeah. In the main blueprints for the system, there was no reference to large-scale scoring of individuals. It did, however, spawn tangentially related initiatives like the Alibaba Sesame Credit. But this was only indirectly related to the social credit score system, and in any case, the People's Bank of China eventually denied the company a credit license. Only in late 2016 did the State Council, China's top governmental body, formally refer to the idea that it would explore establishment of the personal integrity score management system. From the early 2010s, some cities indeed started scoring pilots. Scoring pilots, not scoring like airplane pilots. However, these gradually became controversial, even in China. The city of Suning reportedly deducted points for government petitions and online comments. Xiaozhou Suzhou planned penalties for reservation, no-shows, or cheating in online games, and Rongcheng for littering or jaywalking. Many of these pilots were later criticized by official media or failed to materialize. The most common critique were that the scores illegally restricted citizens' legal rights or tracked behaviors totally unrelated to the notion of credit. I love that. Okay, I just want to point out here that Americans seem to live under this impression that like the average Chinese citizen is living in like a gray 1984's dystopia where they like have to like hammer nails into a board for 12 hours a day before they go home, smoke a cigarette, and then live in a pod. And I don't know where that came from. I would imagine that there is plenty of places in China that are like you like have a shit job and it's like a shit existence, and then you go home and you smoke a cigarette and then you go to your shit bed and your shit life. But I also have that here, so bro, your insurance premium is gonna go up and you're gonna have to talk to your Geico rep about your Flock credit score. Stop it. Oh, God. Tried, tested, and shut it down. By 2019, China's central authorities were stating explicitly they were not happy with the idea. They issued formal clarifications that scores could not be used to penalize citizens, and that only formal legal documents could serve as grounds for penalties. Pilot cities quickly followed suit. Wen Zhao, having made ambitious plans in 2014, made a full 180-degree degrees, and in 2019 released an encouragement-only scheme instead. Rong Cheng issued a revision in 2021 that required voluntary application, and it could only issue rewards. Many other scoring plans never materialize at all. Personal scoring initiatives that live on today serve only as positive incentives, lacking teeth, that are essentially loyalty reward programs like those operated by airlines. Further restrictions were formally rolled out in December 2021, curbing the types of behavior that can be included in the system. This is also why it's unlikely that a social credit score super score is yet to come. The authorities have tried something like it and found out it was not what it was that they were looking for. After all, why would Beijing develop an all-encompassing system to cover the entire population, the vast majority of whom are well-behaved, when they already have a wide array of covert tools which allow them to suppress targeted groups of dissidents? Far more efficient. I like how this article is like, why would they target everybody when they could just save money and target the people that they know are problems already? Which is quite literally what every nation state does. So when you think about it like that, just sort of like a brass taxes part, you know, I know it was mentioned by a chatter that it's like, there's too many people. Why the fuck would they surveil everybody at the same time 24/7? Ratings are still of interest to the Chinese authorities where companies are concerned. In the coming 3 years, the State Administration of Market Regulation will start to classify companies on a scale from A to D nationwide. Companies in Zhangjiang can already look up their overall credit score. However, these scores are not used to blacklist companies. Rather, they serve as an indicator of risk and use it to determine the intensity of supervision. Interesting. That's like an American credit score that every American has. In any case, an over-engineered score that encompasses all of one's subjective actions would be opaque as to be utterly worthless in practice. This is already visible today. Alibaba has the highest possible credit score in Zhejiang, in spite of its monopolistic behavior and scrutiny during the tech crackdown. All of this does not mean that social credit score is benign. It also does not imply that China's broadest surveillance apparatus is a myth. Quite the contrary. However, public debates typically do not focus on these aspects. Rather, the interest in the system often stems from broader anxieties about digital technologies as reflected in the UN pledge and similar actions taken by other countries. You know what? I forgot. I'm going to add FICO credit score to my list of things that annoy the shit out of me, okay? Fucking, I want to live in America that, like, builds up its fellow man, okay? I want to fucking, like, love this place, okay? But it's annoying when I'm nickel and dimed for a fucking credit score, okay, that requires weird esoteric things in order to raise it. Fucking problem. We don't need a fucking credit score. Credit scores are stupid, okay? There's fucking hundreds of countries that don't have fucking credit scores. And they do just fine, baby. They do just fine. Not to kill the vibe, but I just find out my grandma died, and LinkedIn hit me with a connection for a guy named Robert Butts. Okay, not to double down on that, because that sounds awful, and I'm really sorry for your loss in this current time. But did you get the fucking update from your dead grandmother via LinkedIn? Like, it's like I'm scrolling LinkedIn. Ah, fuck. Grandmama died. Grandmama died. Oh, she left her job forever. I'm sorry. I have no idea who the fuck Robert Butts is. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry. That's awful. I hope you're okay. Damn. God. Well, shit. I don't know what to tell you. Bad news, Butts. Old Bobby Butts. Yeah, me and my homie Bobbert G Butts go way back. God. All right. I'm just gonna cut it there. I got a little sidetracked with the fucking other thing. Okay. I think I'm gonna cut it there. It's not because of your grandmother, all right, but I'm gonna go do something else. Cause I've been working all day and I kinda slow down because it's 10:46 at the night, and I slept 5 hours yesterday, so I'm an EP guy. It's been a wild day. Well, you know, at least you had the dirty Mountain Dew. I hope that gives you some respite in your soul as you lay down this evening. All right, thank you for sticking by in this weird stream where I basically just talked about whatever the fuck I wanted. I appreciate all of you who are able to come out here and are actually interested in me versus whatever the topic is. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys.